Good evening. It is October 12th, 2023, and I would like to welcome you and to call the order of the meeting of the South Brunswick Township Board of Education. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I'd like to read the statement of advance notice. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act, NJSA 10-4-6, also known as the Sunshine Law, was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Board Secretary has caused notice of this meeting 48 hours prior, including date, time, and location, to be posted in the South Brunswick Public Library and the Board Office, filed with the Township Clerk, and communicated to the Home News Tribune and the Star Ledger. It is also posted on the district website. Mr. Pawlowski, may I have roll call?
Ms. Julie Ferrara.
Present.
Ms. Laura Hernandez.
Here.
Mrs. Deepa Karthik. Ms. Alicia Khan.
Here.
Mr. Raja Krishnan. Mr. Mike Mitchell.
Present.
Mr. Barry Nathanson.
Here.
Dr. Smitha Raj.
Here.
Mrs. Lisa Rogers.
Oh, here, sorry.
We have a quorum.
All right, I'm just going to go for it. Okay, before we move on to the approval of minutes, I have a public statement to make. So over the past week, this board has received numerous messages from concerned individuals, both within our South Brunswick community and outside. These messages included a link to a video where an individual from our community accepted recognition from a local organization. The video reflects that over the public address system in front of a large audience, which included public officials from other townships, this individual was shockingly addressed as the president of the South Brunswick School Board and recognized with a memento. Impersonation of public officials is a matter of great seriousness, and it can have legal consequences. The reason I bring this matter to the attention of the board, the public, and other relevant organizations is simple. The individual in question has made no known attempt to rectify the situation, rectify their actions to this board, the superintendent, or the individuals who presented this recognition. Let me be abundantly clear. No one at any time has the right to impersonate a sitting member of this board or any other public servant in any way, shape, or form. It is vital to understand that such behavior will not be tolerated. We want to make it unequivocally clear to all township residents that this person is not a sitting board member, to prevent any confusion within our community. When the public is led to believe that a person is in a position to serve the public interest, it could do great harm in leading the community to believe that that individual will take action, when in fact, they are talking with the wrong individual. Should this persist, let me make it clear, the board will have no choice but to pursue further actions. I thank you for your attention to this, and we will now proceed to the approval of minutes. Thank you. Mr. Pawlowski. Oh, no, that's me. Yep, sorry.
Keep her going.
Sorry, I get a little upset about stuff like this. So the next order of business is the board minutes of September 14th, 2023, and executive minutes of September 14th. Board Secretary Mr. Pawlowski, drafts of the minutes from both meetings were sent to all of us on the board on Monday, October 9th, 2023. Are there any corrections to the minutes as distributed by any board member? No, then the minutes stand as written and are approved.
Did we get a first and second for?
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. May I have, that's my fault, sorry. May I have a, no, we don't need it once they're approved. There's no changes. Oh, the agenda. Yes, my apologies. May I have a motion for the approval of the agenda? My apologies. Mr. Mitchell moved, Dr. Raj, second. All in favor? Thank you. I do apologize for the mistake. Okay, moving on, we now have the report of the student representative, Defon Lee.
Good evening, everyone. To start off with some news from the high school, in the SBHS library, Ms. Meganello and Ms. Hanasowski are finishing up 9th grade orientation lessons with our English classes. On Wednesday, October 4th, the library partnered with our student chapter of Amnesty International to host Equity, a celebration of the freedom to read. Students and staff were treated to tea and book discussions throughout the day. For the first time ever, SBHS is hosting an Armed Forces Night, which will occur on Tuesday, October 17th at 6:30 p.m. A variety of military and ROTC recruiters have been invited from local colleges to give parents and students information about military service. On Tuesday, Student Council attended the fall conference for the New Jersey Association of Student Councils at TCNJ. The state officers were introduced, as well as the state charity. Student Council is excited to announce that the state charity this year is South Brunswick's very own Hugs for Brady Foundation. Student Council will be beginning the process of applying for the prestigious Standards of Excellence Award. Participating student councils conduct a self-evaluation and then are evaluated by a visiting team from another participating school. Recipients will be announced in May. The first Student Senate meeting will take place Wednesday, October 18th. Approximately 100 students will meet to discuss student body affairs. The Senior Sunrise took place on October 5th, where over 500 seniors were in attendance. They received their senior shirts and had breakfast while enjoying the sunrise. This week, our freshmen were given their welcome to SBHS Black and Gold t-shirts during lunches. We're very happy to be keeping these traditions for the students. Club activities have officially started at the high school. We're excited to announce large turnouts for our clubs, and we look forward to a great year. Congratulations to our football team on winning the homecoming game against Monroe on Friday, September 29th. Additional congratulations to Aiden and Urja for being crowned our homecoming king and queen. Our Pink Out football game will take place tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. at Valhalla Stadium. Additionally, on October 20th, Student Council will be hosting a breast cancer awareness lunch event. Moving on to athletics, the gymnastics team will be honoring Jackie Peng at an upcoming meet and hosting GMCs on Saturday, October 21st. The girls' tennis team competed in the GMC tournament and finished 3rd overall. The SB Vikings marching band recently took home first place at the Ludwig Meister Classic 2023. The girls' soccer team will be playing their quarterfinal game at home on Monday, October 16th. Yesterday, the boys' cross-country team ran at the GMC Red Division Championships and finished 2nd place. Upcoming home events include boys soccer versus Highland Park, girls soccer versus Burlington Township, girls tennis versus Monroe, gymnastics versus Hightstown, and girls tennis versus JP Stevens. Thank you. I hope everyone has a great night.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Defon. The next order of business is the report of the superintendent, Mr. Federer.
All right, I'm going to start with a nice, fun one. This is Principals Month. And I want to thank Murph. She put out a really cool picture. I thought I'd post it on Facebook in some places. But, just like our staff, our principals are working, just tremendously, and can't thank them all enough. So that's great. I want to announce Ed Foundation is Taste of Education. So I did speak to Sabuha today, and they're over about 120 so far, but looking for some more. So if people are interested, it is on Thursday at 6 o'clock, and they have some great prizes and food, and it's a great event. So if you haven't signed up yet, anyone in the community, please come out. Remember, by donating to the foundation, that money is being earmarked for funding towards our engineering program in the schools. So that is really important, so want to keep going with that. What else? So, interestingly enough, next week is Anti-Violence Awareness Week. And of course, with that said, we've heard of all kinds of things coming out of the Middle East. And of course, anyone who has family, knows people there and is suffering, in Gaza or in Israel or any of the surrounding areas, our hearts are going out with them, of course. There's been talk about potential for issue tomorrow. I know Chief Aduka has put out notice of additional security, so we thank him for that. Here, hope we'll just have a normal day. And it is an early release day tomorrow for students. It already was a planned early release day, so that's happening. And otherwise, I'm going to save the rest. We have a really great night. We have our transition center is presenting tonight. So what I would ask the board to do is if you would be able to head out onto the chairs, because there's going to be two presentations. We'll start with turning it over to him, that guy, to Mr. Morales, our Director of Student Services. Just let them have a chance to sit down, and we'll take it from there.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rafael Morales. I'm the Student Services Director for the school district, and I'm super excited to be here. But before we move on, I want to introduce Ms. Emily Wright, my Special Education Supervisor of Special Programs at the middle school and high school, and of the transition program for our 18 to 21-year-old students, and she's going to partner with me in sharing tonight's exciting presentation. I do want to say hello to my two supervisors that are here as well. Jackie McCarty and Michelle Santa Maria are able to join us. So really appreciate you guys being here. I have the best team in the district, I have to say. Thank you, board. Thank you, Mr. Feder and our leadership team for the opportunity to highlight one of our great special education programs. I know I'm biased, but we have the hardest working teachers, paraprofessionals, specialists and supervisors that make these programs glow and grow. Very excited to be here and to share this board update. Let me turn to the agenda. I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of our transition program. I'm going to give you an update on our transition training center. We're going to talk about the community connections that we've had and we continue to have. Some new opportunities that have grown as a result of having the transition training center. One of them is the Center of Acceptance Boutique. So if you were able to get here a little early, you saw some of our students selling some of the student-made items. We're going to tell you a little bit about their boutique in this endeavor. And we're going to show you a lot of pictures of students at work doing some really great things, and want to thank and appreciate folks. It's a long list of folks. The mission and vision of our program are on the screen here, and like any good process, you start with a mission and a vision, and we did that. We did this prior to even having the Transition Training Center. But our mission is to make sure that all of our students with disabilities, 18 to 21, transition to adulthood, and we want them to do that using those effective strategies that are listed within the mission there. Our vision is how we kind of operate year to year to make those things happen and achieve our mission. The Transition Training Center is a new opportunity that the district has been able to work with in developing. The Transition Training Center, I'll tell you a little bit about where it is and all that in a second. But it's home to a mock apartment. This includes kind of the living quarters that one would have to take care of when they're adults, right? And this mock apartment allows us to work with students, to teach the skills that they need in order to be as functional independently as they can when they age out. It's kind of two-parted. The other side of the Transition Training Center is designed for students to develop their work readiness skills and work training and employment training opportunities. And you'll see some action and some examples of that. Here's a picture of the Transition Training Center, which is located on the Cambridge school campus. It's that little building there with the arrow. Before it was a Transition Training Center, that room, that building held, it's actually an interesting point, they held about half of our preschool programs. We didn't have too much preschool a few years back, and half of them were in that building. And we spent some time and developed it into what you'll see in a few seconds. So Ms. Wright is going to share some pictures of the space and share some of our vision and mission with it.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So those of you who have been on this journey with us over the past year or so may have seen the Transition Center when it was a large open space. And so it has developed over the past couple of years. As Mr. Morales said, there are two distinct sides, the mock apartment and the vocational skills. We also have a great laundry section and a leisure space that you'll see momentarily. If you recall, last year around this time, we put out an all call to the community for a furniture drive, looking for anything to help us furnish and really get the space up and running. And we were floored by how many people responded, both within the community and staff members. And you'll see in a moment how beautiful and functional we've been able to make the space with all of your donations. So we now have, on our vocational side, you'll see plenty of task boxes that students can work on based on their skills, their interests, and help develop skills for them. We have a bunch of workstations where they practice the different jobs that you'll see in a few moments. We've tried to replicate as many functional vocational spaces as we can. So you'll see stocking, we have a grocery store set up, a lot of clerical opportunities for students, data entry, copies, mail sort, trying to hit on all those New Jersey career clusters of all the types of jobs that our students are capable of and potentially may have once they leave us. So we also have, if you saw our sense of acceptance table out front, we do have a storefront at the Transition Training Center, which is open to staff during the school day, Monday through Friday. And you can see here in the picture on the left what it looks like when there's a schedule up and running. So again, our goal is to make students as independent as possible. So with the schedule, they're able to follow their own routines without necessarily having staff need to remind them, and so they're able to do that independently. Again, a few more shots of our workspaces and office space. And then on the other side is our living space. If you're watching at home and these were your couches, we thank you again. But with this space, our students are able to practice those independent living skills like making the bed, keeping a neat living space, cleaning. We have an entire cleaning corner, so vacuuming, sweeping, doing their own laundry, and we'll talk a little bit more about what we do with that laundry space as well, and a fully functioning kitchen. We were able to partner with Home Depot to get really good rates for our brand new appliances, which we're extremely appreciative of. So this is just what some of our spaces look like. And then after a hard day's work and practicing those daily living skills, we have a spot for leisure in the back, which honestly helps our students develop those functional downtime skills and learn how to relax and how to be after a hard day's work. So on the left, before we had this building, we have had a pretty strongly established transition program and program for our 18 to 21-year-old students. So on the left, you'll see places in the community where our students go to practice their community-based instruction skills. And on the right, you'll see places where we have had work-based learning experiences, which is steady job shifts where students will go with a job coach to learn those pre-vocational skills. You'll see up there a lot of places within district. Our own schools and offices are wonderful partners. We work in a bunch of different Chartwells and media centers throughout the district to help our students gain skills. And I do want to draw attention, the pictures that you're seeing, and our newest partner is We Make Autism at Work. It's a program that started in Pennington, New Jersey, and is now in Piscataway, and so we have students who go to the job sites and work there. You'll see it's a beverage distribution center, and so they're really working in a warehouse with coworkers, and a bunch of our most recent graduates have actually transitioned there. They're working there for paid employment or through their day program, so this will hopefully become a seamless transition and partnership for us. Some new opportunities that we've experienced, saw the Sense of Acceptance Boutique outside, so we've partnered with the community center you'll see up there and have had pop-up shops in our own high school. Every year we celebrate our police officers and our Special Olympics athletes with the torch run, and so this year our student workers packaged snacks and beverages for the officers and the athletes. We partnered with Cambridge this year to wash the coats that they received through their coat drive donation. And some ongoing opportunities, we partner with the Viking Closet at South Brunswick High School to wash the clothing that they receive. We partnered with some sports teams. We wash and dry their uniforms. We do inventory and package their uniforms for the next season. Some of our middle and elementary school students have also come up and visited and used the space. So our 18 to 21-year-old students are able to teach those skills. We can see how they transfer those skills, and it's a space that could be used by everybody within the district. And if you have been at the board office when we delivered for Chick-fil-A Friday, we've partnered with Chick-fil-A where they work with us. We have sandwiches, and then the students assemble a larger lunch, and we're able to deliver that to staff members throughout the district. And much more to come. So you saw our boutique outside and all of the lovely items that we had to sell. Everything that you saw was handmade and packaged by our students at the Transition Training Center. We also have the storefront there so staff are able to come so we can practice those sales and social skills throughout the day as well. And you will see us at a few other upcoming events at the South Brunswick High School Human Library event and the craft fair at the high school on the 11th. So now I'm just going to show you a few pictures of students at work. This is how the potpourri jars were made if you purchased one this evening. And then you can see here, it's also provided opportunities for Gen Ed high school students who are interested in going into the field of education to come and work with our students and partner with us that way. We have students practicing laundry, working on different job skills. These are students making the greeting cards that you saw available for purchase this evening. Our storefront also serves as practice for stocking, as if you were working in a typical grocery store. Vacuuming skills, sorting skills, and again, based on the level and skill sets of students, there's something for everybody to practice working on and to build their skills. We also have dog treats, not for sale tonight, but we'll flash our QR code in a moment, but we do make dog treats, which practices our baking skills and serves even our furry community members. And none of this would be possible without a lot of people. So I want to thank, first of all, as Mr. Morales said, our teachers, paras, child study team, job coaches, everyone who's hands-on with our students every single day and make their program possible, our parents and families, the Board of Ed, thank you so much, Mr. Feder and Mr. Pulowski, Mr. Morales, and all of our community partners. And again, if you did not get a chance to purchase anything tonight, here is our QR code. I'll leave that up for a second to scan if you want to make a purchase for later. And then our last slide, we are hoping, with the development of this program to hopefully eventually bring students from other districts who may not be as fortunate as us to have a transition program like this. Our hope is that we can partner with them and serve students who are 18 to 21 in neighboring districts as well. So I'm going to turn it back over to Mr. Morales. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you. Just want to again send my appreciation and commitment to this program, the students in action and the products and the learning that happens is just top notch. And it's because of Ms. Wright and the folks that work very closely with these students. Really happy to share that with you, and look to share ongoing updates with the community, and you probably will see the pop-up shop a little more often before board meetings. Students enjoyed it, and it's a great way to get them here with everyone. So thank you, everyone. Thank you again.
So before I get started, my presentation will be at least, 7 to 10 minutes, Deepa, at least 7 to 10. If you want the kids, if they're hanging out, they're here. They're good? All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming out tonight. I can't say this is going to be quick, but I hope it is thorough, and I am going to try and move fast. The reason I'm going to be able to go fast is every single thing I'm talking about tonight has been presented probably multiple times, as the board requires me to be transparent about all things related to the topics of tonight. So most of the slides are actually pulled from other slides from presentations going back as far as 4 years from before. So, but I do understand some people have paid attention to some of this information over that period of time and are seeing it for the first time in the last few months. But that's okay, because we're going to try and go through it and give everybody an opportunity. And then after, before the board, as we promised the community, we're going to invite people up to ask questions about the budget. That's our first thing. If people have questions or comments about something other than the budget, they, of course, can wait till the first or second public comment, depending on what their comment is about. All right? Good? All right, first of all, this is thanks to Dave. Dave and I spent some time on this. Yep, that's Dave over there. And we're ready to go. So I want to start off with just a quick agenda. We're going to do a quick historical context of the budget. Then we're going to talk about the current setting, back to some budget optimization and how we've been managing the deficit for a few years. What are we looking for? And then a little bit on advocacy, which is still coming shortly. So, slide from 2019. What's important about this slide, as you can see, from 2012 to 2018, the state aid was static. And let's talk about the reality. The reality of the issues with the budget right now is state aid. That is the challenge, along with a 2% cap, mandatory maximum, that we cannot raise taxes more than 2%. So in the state aid history, that's your history. These are like, that's it. Then what happens is around 2021-ish, the world starts to crumble on our state aid. And this slide, again, was pulled from an earlier slide this year, where we're looking at, this year we were cut about $4 million. Next year, and that's the projected number, the 24-25, the last part of that is talking about, we get a schedule from the state. That is where these numbers come from. And they've told us, we're going to be taking $5 million more dollars, or $4.9 million more dollars next year. So when we start next year, they're taking $5 million more. That would put our total aid to $10 million. So if we go back a second, I always do this on this one. If we go back, we were at 23 and change for a very long time. In that time, keep in mind what has happened in that time. Inflation has happened at a far, far more significant rate than a 2% has come. So not only are you looking at now a deficit each year from the state, you're also looking at a deficit from a cap of 2% in a world where none of our costs and expenditures go up 2%. Everything goes up more. So it's a compounded issue, which I've spent so much time talking about that with this community. I'm going to go pretty quick through that. Overall, we're looking at a minus $14 million in state aid, and that's kind of where the crux of our problem is. So good news, bad news, not sure, but we just wanted to share with you, again, pulled from another slide. We updated the numbers to be actual. We're going to see a 9.85% drop over the course from 2018 to current in student enrollment. So let's play that out for a minute. Train of thought would be, well, the state has every right to reduce our state aid because we have less students. Agree. They should reduce it by the amount of drop of our students. Well, that would be 9.85%. So that would be about about $2.3 to maybe $2.5 million, not $14 million. So you can't say, well, you've had a drop in enrollment, that's okay. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. Slide from, I think this was 2020. We targeted this particular year because Dave and I don't budget year to year. We budget long term. The board and the finance committee forces us down a path where we can't look 1 year at a time. They demand too much. So when we look at the budget, and we presented this 3+ years ago, we were already pointing to the 23-24 school year, this current school year, and we were expecting to be a -6 million. What was different? Well, we got $4 million in, I call it, well, let's just call it what it is, stabilization aid. So in the best case scenario, where we're only about $2.3 million short after everything. Works out to be a little bit more than that, but that's what we saw coming. And as a result of that, we can't sit on our hands and say, well, that's what's going to happen. So we've done so much as a board to avoid real damage, and we have avoided real damage. We could be looking right now at significant issues, and we're not. So let's keep going. Slide from 2020. We were talking about a short-term problem. What we're going to have to do, tighten our belt. Enrollment, we're looking at enrollment already. Looking at our fees, but we didn't increase the fees until this year. So we waited, we delayed. We did not want to do things to our community that we could avoid. So we did other things, and we'll talk about those. We didn't stop any programs. We didn't reduce our resources, but we were ready to, and we thought we were going to have to. But we found other ways through optimization that worked out to be far better for our community. Also, 2020, what happened in 2020? Of course, we all know what happened in 2020. Lots of things changed in 2020. Financially, they were good things. Everything else, not so good. But let's look at the short term. This was now long term. We were looking at facing a $10 million, which we have lost just about over time. But when you compound the 2% and the turnover, which I'll show you a little bit later, you can see. I just have to point this out. I yellowed that. That was not yellowed before. The bottom, I just yellowed in the last couple of days. The idea that people tell us you're not transparent and you don't tell us and we didn't know and all of these things, pay attention. Please, look at what we send out to the community. Every one of these presentations has been sent out to this community. So this one was out there. This has been out there for 3 years. As you can see, we saw the courtesy busing was a problem that could potentially happen. We avoided it for 3 more years. We avoided doing it for 3 more years. Last thing we looked at, T&E. I'm going to say what T&E. T&E is a thorough and efficient education. This is the law. We have to provide what is called T&E. So our concern, if this continues down the path it's going, is at some point, we're not going to be talking about small things. We're going to be talking about, can we educate kids, right? Unsustainable. So let's look at what we're talking about now. So we want to do just something, again, this is a slide pulled from other slides. This is important to say. It does not matter. If you remember the board presentation I did on the budget, I talked about purple crayons. And I basically said, if all we did was spend every dollar we have on purple crayons, it would not make one bit of difference as to how much money the state gives us. They do not look at anything in relative to that. They look at a few things on their formula, and that's it. Bottom line is the loss of funds from the state is around the S2 monies. We are one of about 100 districts being hit hard. For those of you that saw the flyer we put out, we sent you a bunch of articles. Some of the articles were about S2, then about some other things. But again, I wish it would be, if we were doing X, Y, or Z, we would get more money, but it's not. It just doesn't work that way. This is a big part of the formula. It comes down to how the state looks and says what you're worth as a town. Well, since S2 has been started, we've grown on paper by $3.5 billion, which that then shows, I'm not getting into the whole thing again, it shows the town, according to the state of New Jersey, this town does not pay enough in taxes. And I doubt I'm going to find too many people that agree with that in South Brunswick, and I understand that. It's not the board saying it, it's not the superintendent saying it, it's the state saying it. That's why we are not getting money. Their point is you should be paying more. But as you've heard me say before, they won't let you pay more without going through a lot of hoops, voting, referendums, all kinds of other ways. But we can't just say to you, you know what, the state's right, we're going to raise your taxes. We can't do that. In fact, the Board of Education has virtually nothing to do with taxes. In fact, the town controls the taxes by ratables. We do have something to do with taxes because we control a 2% possible mandated maximum that we could increase. But when you say 2%, it doesn't necessarily mean an increase. In fact, 5 years, virtually no increase. Virtually none. I think this year was the first time we've had an increase since I've even been here in the district portion of the budget. And I wish I could tell you that's because we've been so awesome. It's the way the taxes are done at the township level. I wish we could control them, but we can't. The state funding formula has nothing to do with how tax is collected. So in other words, they have this whole formula, but like I said, it doesn't have anything to do with our ability to collect tax. Nothing. So we can't collect tax. Doesn't work that way. Ultimately, the state's calculation is saying who they say should fund the schools. And they say they're done funding South Brunswick. The state of New Jersey has no interest anymore in funding South Brunswick schools. They say you, and only pretty much you, should be funding South Brunswick schools, the town. That's their formula, which again, the majority of that formula has a back end to it we can't see. And so much so, I think I provided the article to the community, where the state fought the S2 districts, refusing to give us the formula, and went to court, and they won in court. That the state has a proprietary formula that they do not have to provide to school districts or community members. So that's where we are. That's important understandings for everybody. Said that already, so let's keep moving on. Maybe that's the end of my presentation. There we go. All right, S2, looking at this year, we were scheduled to lose $1.2 million. They decided to take $4 million instead. So they gave us a schedule, said, here you go. Here's how much we're going to take. We're like, okay, we could plan for $1.2 million. Then they took $4 million. Now, they gave us some of it back, but they took the $4 million permanently. The money they gave back to us is one-time money. That's not helpful for long-term work. Total state aid as of right now is $9 million reduction. As I told you, another $5 million is coming. That's $14 million. Okay, these are not board numbers. They're not superintendent or BA numbers. This is state. These are all state numbers. Right now, the town is currently evaluated at $11 billion. It was evaluated at under $8 billion when this whole thing started. That's also part of the problem. Adequacy is the term the state uses to describe, do you have enough money? Adequacy in the term has absolutely nothing to do with how you spend money. It has nothing to do with whether I'm good at budgeting, whether you're good at budgeting, whether anyone in the township is good at budgeting. Adequacy is simply a calculated number in the formula that the state says you should be spending right now, today. The state is telling us you should be spending $7.2 million more on your students. That's what they're telling us. We say every time they tell us that, we agree. How can I get the money? Oh, you can't get the money. You can't get the money. You just should have the money. That's the conversation that we have with the state. It is absurd. It is unconscionable, and it is the reality of our situation. And some districts, their adequacy number is minus $50 to $80 million. And the state's saying to them the same exact thing. Get the money from your town. But we're not letting you get the money from your town. So let's talk about how we spend money. So 60% of our money, or just shy of 60% of all of our money, goes to staff. We're a person business. We need people to do the jobs. 60% of the money goes there. But that's not where all the money goes. There's still 40% of the money. The next highest thing that we spend on is health insurance. The next highest thing is transportation. After that, you have debt service and facilities. Just so you know what debt service is, it's a hard thing to comprehend. Debt service is your credit card debt. If you do not pay off your credit card at the end of every month, you have debt. That is what debt service is. You obtain debt service in a school district, usually when you build something. Our debt service is primarily associated with the build-out of the high school and Brooks Crossing. That's most of our debt. We do have some debt falling off. When debt falls off, let's say that we finish, you pay off your credit card. When you pay off that credit card, and let's say it's $7 million credit card, and let's say that comes down to, I think our debt service is about $7.5 million. So let's say that we drop $3 million of debt. That money does not go into the operating budget at all. We can't move it and buy anything with it. It just is a payment we don't have to make anymore, but that is separate money. There are buckets in our business, and debt service is its own bucket. We actually get aid from the state called debt service aid that we can only use to pay debt service, and that's a calculation as well. So again, the good thing that happens when you lose debt is it helps your taxes because you're being taxed based upon the debt service. When you build a high school, you have to pay for it over time, and that's what happens. That's what that is. So again, our second largest component is health insurance. No surprise. So when we say a rollover from year to year, it says, okay, if we were going to do exactly what we're doing today, do 100% of the same thing tomorrow, meaning all the same staff, everybody's identical, we run the exact same programs, we bus the exact same kids, we do everything identically, we would be short millions of dollars the next year without the state cutting money. 2% does not cover your costs to roll over a $160 million budget. And it doesn't even come close. It's millions short before the state takes money. What causes it? S2, state takes more money. That impedes us. 2% impedes us. Just for a second, let's be real for a moment. I think I just got challenged by someone recently because something that they were purchasing from the district is now more money than it was 3 years ago. I would love to find anything that is even close to the price it was 3 years ago. Nothing in my world. I don't think anything in anybody's world. That's the nature of the beast. The problem for us is it doesn't matter if it goes up. If we have to buy something, the price goes up. No one says, well, you're a school, we're going to give it to you cheaper. In fact, there's teachers here today, so a bunch of staff. It'd be a lot easier to go to a flea market and buy a roll of tape than to buy it from a school specialty order for $6 a roll instead of $1 at the flea market. Yes? You got me. And can you go to the store and use our money to buy that? No. So I know what you do, though. You do it yourself. I know what you do. But that's the reality. We have bad rules. We have a bad situation. And this is not a South Brunswick thing. This is state. So the current economic and labor landscape, inflation, it ain't 2%. Hasn't been 2%. The prices are off the charts. The price to buy paper, the price to buy anything. We still only get 2%. There was no adjustment, no COLA for us. It's 2%. Gas, goods, services, energy, everything. Labor is completely different. The availability of labor is a problem, and that's not just our field, it's every field. And you know what happens? It's competitive. And when there's competitive, we all know what happens in a competitive world of labor. You pay more. It's the way it goes. It's happening in every industry. You pay more. They don't care. The state doesn't care. 2%. That's it. Then there's, of course, that unknown. One unknown for us was we were expecting a $1.2 million cut, and they cut $4 million. It's a bit of an unknown. So here's what it looks like. Again, pulled this from a different slide. We updated the numbers because when we do this, we give you our best guesses. This is now accurate numbers. The budget rollover this year to do as is was $6.6 million. Now, 2% on $160 million would be $3.2 million. But it isn't $160 million. It's 2% on the tax levy. not the whole 160 million. It's only 2% on about 120 million. Not the debt service, 120 million. That means our 2% is in that 2.4 to 2.6 range, depending on exactly on how David, where he is at that time. That's it. So we need 6.6, and we only legally can get that 2.5 million. Then the state came in, so that left us with a $4 million hole on the right side. Then the state came in and said, yeah, we're going to take $4 million more because, you know, you're only $7 million in the hole. Let's take some more because you're under adequacy already. So now we're minus $8 million. Then we fought. We actually met with chief of staff of the governor's office. We met with legislators. We testified. We fought. Not just us, but a whole bunch of us. And they realized, uh-oh, so they gave us the stabilization aid. Kind of offset the state aid, except it's different money. It doesn't compound. It doesn't ever do anything. It sits, it disappears, it doesn't come back. That's a big problem for us. But now we only needed to find $4 million in a rollover. $4 million. I'll talk more about preschool expansion aid. That gave us $700,000. Extraordinary aid, $100,000. Revenue increases out of our reserves. You know, you have a home. You can't use every dollar you have. We're a school district. We can't borrow money. We can't just say, put it on the credit card. We don't have a credit card. So when we deplete those revenues, it's a big problem for us. So we're doing it, and I'm not doing all this tonight, but we went over this with this community. We have a 5-year plan for our revenues. Using them, not using them for stuff, using them to survive. That's where we are. So that puts us at $2.4 million we need. Now revenue increases. We got $120,000. We did enrollment reductions. That means that 2% in enrollment, we were able to make some reductions in staffing because we were able to. Then we had courtesy busing. That was $400,000. Special education tuition, reducing it by a ton by doing all kinds of different things in that department. Raf was just up here with Emily, and a bunch of their department is here. They work their tails off to try and do things to keep our kids in district. And that's where that comes. Other tuitions are different, come out of different accounts. Then we had about $50,000 left to get it to zero. David has to balance the budget. He cannot roll over the year without a balanced budget. Has to put it in the system, and it has to be balanced. That's the way it works. So we knew this was coming this year. Last year we met with a team of about 40 individuals from the township, different facets of the town. Some people had kids in school, some didn't have kids in school, some were business owners, some were township, all kinds of things. And they identified for us, if you really get in trouble, you got to cut things. Focus on, leave these 4: academics, mental health, safety and security at the school level, and extracurricular activities. Our kids thrive on extracurricular activities. In fact, I saw 2 of our people here that basically run the extracurriculars for the universe over here, Lauren and Holly. So yes, amazing. And I'm a little scared of both of them, so I am not cutting the extracurriculars. So they're pretty safe, don't worry. So we want to show you what we've done already, right? So at this stage of the night, we're talking about the right now. So we've had to increase fees all over the place. We've done 15 staff reductions. We've had to raise Summer Institute costs. We're just bleeding those reserves, as we talked about. We've reduced aid in lieu, meaning people that live in the community that were getting $1,000 and not using the bus, that aid is stopped. We've reduced monies in professional development, which is a horrible thing to do. We've reduced 10% of courtesy busing, leaving the other 90% intact. We've combined elementary school special education programming. We've increased our extraordinary aid. Again, good work from our special education department. We've gone ahead and applied the 2% tax levy. We're working with the shared service. We've now asked, I don't know, I think I've asked 4 or 5 times already. The mayor asked me to put in writing a request for help with our school security and the funding of that. The mayor's not responded to 4 different emails on that, so I don't know what's happening with that. So I would say it's pending at this point, if they're going to help us with the $350,000. The district currently pays the township $350,000 for the security guys that come and work in the school. So we pay the township. That's how this works. So it's your taxes. We collect them and then pay them to the township. Actually, the township collects them, pays us, then we pay them back the money for the same exact people. That's how it works. We increased the pay-to-play fees. We increased Summer Institute. We increased AM bus music fees, rental fees. We're doing what we can.
But this is where it happens. This is the work. This budget optimization is the work. And if we don't do these things, we're not talking about small potato stuff. We're talking about big-time changes to this district if we do not optimize and think out of the box and not sit on our hands and say the only thing we do is educate kids. I wish all we could do is focus the entire district on educating kids. But guess what? There's a business department. There's massive departments of people that work here that have to do these things. Or we could do what I'm hearing out there is you should just educate kids and not focus on these other things. I'll tell you what. Someone tell me, or give me the permission, please, permission. I'm asking the 9 of you. Give me permission to just focus on education. You'd make my millennium. Is that the phrase? That would be unbelievable if I could get out of my office and focus on education all the time as a superintendent. That would be great. Here's what optimization means. It is the action of making the best or most effective use of a situation or resource. Fosters reassessment and recalibration. That's what it is. So you can make adjustments to your practices. You can reduce your expenditures. You can increase your revenues. Now, again, I always like to use Coca-Cola in my example. So if Coca-Cola is seeing massive inflation and they are seeing that they now have to pay their employees, let's go a 5% raise. Their entire organization needs to increase all of their expenditures by 5%. Can anyone tell me, this is a chance to do some interaction, can anyone tell me what they think Coca-Cola will do if all of their expenditures go up by 5%? Pass it on to? Okay. Coke goes up. Now, I do the food shopping in my house. I've been doing the food shopping since my kids were born. And I have a really weird thing with numbers. Now, I used to like sales. ShopRite sales, Stop and Shop sales, Wegman sales. Let me tell you, and I by the way, we had this conversation earlier today. I really like cereal, and not the cereal I should be eating. So kids, don't try this at home. Boo Berry is really good right now. The Boo Berry's out. The Frankenberry's out. Count Chocula's out. And those things used to go on sale for like about $2 a box. I don't know if you buy cereal. If anyone does, who does the shopping for their house in here? How much more is food?
How much more are yodels?
Oh, well, I'm not going to talk about yodels. We're going to go ho-hos. Mark and I have a yodel problem.
Scott, to your 1.5%, right? It's not necessarily that.
Hold on. I'm sorry. You're answering what I asked?
No, I'm answering the question.
Go ahead, Mukesh.
Yeah, so not necessarily that Coca-Cola is going to pass all the 5% to the consumers. If they have a good gross margins, they are going to absorb a lot of that cost internally until they start breaking. But they will absorb the cost as much as possible.
Well, I hope they start doing that, because I can tell you, Coca-Cola used to be the 4-pack, the 8-packs. They used to have the 8-packs. The little bottles, my wife likes the little bottles of 8-packs. And you used to be able to buy 2-packs for $5 or 2 for $6 when it was on sale. Right now, you'll never find them for under $5 an 8-pack. Never. So the reality is, well, I hope that's true, and I would love to know that, I would love to start seeing some of that absorption. We're seeing lots of increased costs for the things we have to buy. So I'll go with that. Not going to argue that that isn't true. I hope that is true more often, but that's the way it works. So when we optimize, you can make adjustments to the practice, which I think would be the absorption model. Reduce expenditures, increase revenues. That's the way it works. So let's talk about the types of levels of optimization. One, my favorite, is do it better for less money. That's a great optimization. Do it better for less money. 2, do it better, but only for the same money. That's still okay. Just do it better. That's great. If I can do it better and it's only a minimal increase and I have the increase, that's okay. Do it better for a bigger increase. Sometimes you do that because you think it's that much better and you want to do that. Do the same for less money. So in other words, I'm going to keep doing this, but I figured out a way to absorb those costs or do whatever and do it for less, but do the same, get the same outcome for less. 6, do less for less. Usually not a desired outcome, but it's a reality. Sometimes you just have to do less, and that's how you spend less. So, in practice for our district, here's what we've done. I'm not going to talk about the biggies. I'm not going to talk about all the ones that David does on a regular basis. But here we go. Enrollment. When you have enrollment drop, you need to figure out the best way to do that and still get the same results, but for less. Preschool, we'll talk about that. Transportation, we'll talk about that. Energy, we're going to talk about that. And health insurance, we're going to talk about that. So again, all of those things, I'm going to be really clear on this point. All of those things, this is repeat tonight. This ain't new. This has all been done before. But I'm doing it again. I won't be doing this again probably till around March. But I'm doing it again. I'm not doing it again. Somebody really does not want me to continue with this presentation. All right, enrollment. So before I gave you 6 different opportunities for optimization. Reductions due to enrollment are doing the same for less. We have less kids. We can do the same outcome, but for less money. So when we have fewer students, we have reductions in class sections, right? If we just think of it simply, if we have 100 students and there's 20 kids in a section, we'd have 5 sections. If we reduce to 80 students, we'd still have 20 in a section, but have 1 less section to pay for. Simple, reduction in class sections. We also do things called review student loads. A student load is if there's somebody in a building that has X number of people. Some of Raphael's people have a load. They have a number of students they take care for or watch out for. You can look at that and you can say, well, we've had a reduction. We might have to re-up that load. Or if you get money, you can reduce that load. That's just the way you look at it. And ultimately, we always are looking at how we can reallocate our human resources to manage funding. But again, when you lose students, this is easier. The big challenge is when you get students and no funding. That's a bad problem. We are not in that problem right now. That would be very, very bad. In other words, if they start building quickly any of these projects, if anyone knows the one on Northumberland Way behind 4 Executive Drive, that one is scheduled for 1,800 units. It's rare that someone buys a piece of a condo or a townhouse in South Brunswick without children. We have that particular development pegged at somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 students once it's fully built out, within 5 years after fully built. Good news, we have no students from there yet. But Jill, it's right behind Jill Adignon's office out there, and so you just came in, so it's right at Clyde's office, and they're watching those things go up. And knowing that we don't have finances, it's scary to see those things go up. Good news, I think there's a water issue in the town. So, yay water. It's a really good thing for us. So, preschool. Again, this is repetitive. I think I have 2 or 3 slides. We already had preschool. We were spending $700,000 to operate our own preschool because we are mandated to provide preschool for students with disabilities. Have to do it. And we were doing it. And it was costing the district $700,000. Now, by going and making this decision, which was a crazy decision, is driving us all nuts still, it gave us money that could only be used for preschool. But that optimization saved us right now $700,000. And again, Suzanne's in the audience today. Thank you, Suzanne, for what you do with that. Megan, our new preschool principal, is out there. So many people were involved. I don't want to try and name them all in getting this program running. It's a huge program. It's already 19 classes. And in November, just so the board knows, in November, we have to tell them how much bigger we're getting next year. In November. So again, the $700,000, we now took the $700,000 and put that into the operating budget. You saw that on my other slide. That was counted, and that helped us. So again, if we didn't do it, 250 families would not have free preschool right now. 2, we'd be minus $700,000 more looking to cut things out of. And 3, isn't it a little bit more valuable for a town to have free preschool? Parents are telling me they're saving $10,000 to $15,000 per kid on this. Where was that when I had preschool kids? Big important thing. This one is 100% funded by the state. So we taking our state aid, but we did get this out of them. No increase for our families. So what does it mean? Increased property value, high-level preschool for families. And just think of that. People always talk about things like school rankings and such and how good the school district is. Well, if you take students that would never have had an opportunity to go to preschool and you give them 2 free full days, 2 free full years of preschool, that is going to help the entire industry grow. It's huge to have that. Huge. And again, if we don't do this, if someone says, well, Scott, don't do that, sounds like a lot of work, and you really should be focusing on the other things that you should be doing. Don't do this, it's too much work. Okay, then our families, it'll just go away, it'll be gone, but we'll still have to do the program that we're mandated for. So I'll have to find $700,000 somewhere else in the budget to pay for what we have to do anyway. Optimization at its finest. Transportation. So, who knows this actually? I don't know if you guys know this. I don't know if I've done this. This might be a new slide actually. This might be one of my few new slides. So the the state of New Jersey offers something called transportation aid. So every year, Jill's office by October 15th fills out something called the DRTS. And on that DRTS, she has to put down how many students are being transported. So, we transport somewhere around, maybe 7,000 kids. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. The only kids that we get any money for are mandated students. That means anyone getting a courtesy bus, regardless, we get $0 for. In other words, it's cheaper to bus students that live 5 miles away than it is to bus any student living under the mileage limit. We get no money from the state. You're paying for it 100% out of the taxpayer pocket to fund anything you do with courtesy busing, anything. That includes the hazardous routes. So those 2,000 kids that we currently are still courtesy busing, happily, they live on hazardous routes, unlike the others that do not live by hazardous routes. They are not getting any money for that. Also, unfortunately, while we're supposed to get $509 a kid, we're only getting $400 a kid. David and I we looked back at our state aid numbers. We've been only getting $2,100 and change for 6-7 years, I think. That's what we saw. 2.1 mil for about 6 or 7 years. That's what we get. Even though we're currently busing 5,000 students, mandated, meaning they either are above the mileage, they have an IEP or 504, or they get aid in lieu because they're on the distance for aid in lieu. That's how that works. So that's where we are with that. Interesting. So for transportation, we did both number 1 and number 6. We do better for less, and unfortunately, we also are doing less for less. Triples and optimizing those routes save the district millions. Save the district millions. Just think of it. A bus that does 2 routes, they charge you about $80,000. A bus that does 3 routes, they charge you about $90,000. So you're either paying 40 or 30, you decide. So did it cause some upheaval? Yes, it was unfortunate. We wish we could do things without that. But the optimization at the end of the day, the amount of bus concerns about buses not showing up, I don't mean when there's a problem, but there were years where we've had situations due to driver shortages or just my first year here was a mess. I don't even know what was going on. It was a mess. I was like, I'm out of here. This is craziness. That's over. And it's been over since we've moved to triple. So we optimized. We made it better. We ended the shortages. We got less drivers. We were able to do that. And who did we keep? We kept our drivers and reduced contracted drivers because our drivers rock. And that's why we kept them. We saved millions. The 10% reduction in courtesy busing, It's a long story already at this point. We maintained our hazardous routes. We did a line item analysis of every route to see what could be done here. And of course, we reduced the aid in lieu for any family that was receiving aid in lieu that was under the distance. That was about $40,000 as well. So all of those things happened for transportation. Again, unfortunately, we did a little bit less for less, but we also did a lot better for less. Energy. Somehow, no one seems to care about energy, but people care about the health center. It's really funny. Because we spent $27 million for that one. Only $2.5 million for the health center, but not 15, but 2.5, but $27 million for energy. And guess what? Guess who came out like, oh my Lord, how could you possibly do this? Nobody. Sorry, Lisa, you did. Nobody else. Somehow that was okay. Spending $27 million on a flyer for energy, that was all right. But so taking care of our staff's health, that's not okay, right? That's bad. Don't do that. Energy, yeah. Go ahead, spend all you want, $27 million, piece of cake. The reality was you were smart not to come out and yell about that because it was brilliant. And I wish I could take credit for it. But I can't. It was the Board of Education before I walked in the door. I guess they didn't really know that I could have taken credit for that, couldn't have I? Darn. $27 million bond, not a bond where we had to go to vote. A bond where you borrow the money through this program called ESIP. $27 million. What the $27 million did is it bought all the stuff you would do. So if you think about your house and you start thinking about everything related to energy, all of your lighting, your HVAC, your boilers, your air conditioning, anything at all, gutted, replaced. And let's see, I know we have the staff here. That year that we replaced it, that wasn't so fun. I was here that year. I mean, that was not fun. Until you calibrate a new HVAC system for for hundreds of thousands of square feet, tough. We also put solar everywhere, all for that $27 million. Why would you do that? Why in the world would you spend money when you could have just bought more stuff for kids? I don't know, board. I don't know what you were thinking. That bond payment costs us between $1.8 and over $2 million a year because you borrowed that money. This sounds ridiculous. You spent $27 million. Why would you do such a thing? Well, because you reduce the energy bill. Let's think about this for a minute. Anyone ever put solar? Anyone who has solar in the community who has solar? Anybody? Why would you do that? That's just really expensive. And I know it's beautiful. I mean, everyone loves it on top of their house. You do it because you're decreasing the cost of your energy. That's why you do it. No one did it to have big things on the top of their house because it looked pretty. Let's go with an electric vehicle. Why do you buy an electric vehicle? I don't know. Why do you do it? They're far more expensive. We have a Kia Sorento, and we have the hybrid version. So it's part gas, part electric. My wife only goes about 12 miles to work, so it's a 32-mile charge, and she can go back and forth, not really using too much gas. It's a good thing. But that car was about $12,000 more than the regular Kia. Nothing else about it is any different. Why would you do that? Who would do that? Why spend more money? Why upfront money? Why would you do it? Well, because you're reducing other costs. And you probably want good energy. You want a cleaner energy. If you have a Tesla, which I think almost everybody has a Tesla except for me at this point, you have no gas bill. And when the gas was $4.50, and you're driving around like an F-350, and you're looking at the guy with the Tesla next to you, you're not feeling so good about yourself. You do things because they make sense. That's why you do them. The district didn't just spend $27 million because they wanted new stuff. There's no sexiness in an HVAC unit. No one's like, ooh, I'm going to move to South Brunswick. They got new boilers. It doesn't work that way. But you know what they do like? You know what people care about? The fact that we've reduced our energy costs by $1 million a year, that we could take that $1 million and give it to kids. That's what people like. That's why they'll move to South Brunswick. Because we don't sit on our hands and say, we hope the energy goes well. No energy goes well. Energy increases every year, period, the end. Check your own bills if you're not sure. So here's what it looks like. In 2015-16, our energy bill to operate the district was $2.3 million. We then had our energy people, and you can look at any national norm, and you can do all the research yourself to see if we would have just done nothing, if we would not have thought about optimization, if we would not have cared about anything but educating the students and not about anything to do with operations, because I love this question, I love it. Scott, why would you do this? You're not in the energy business. No, we're not in the energy business. So I guess we should just pay more because we're not in the energy business. Really bad thinking, really bad. So anyway, if we did nothing, all the way to the right, each year, according to the national statistics on energy consumption and the costs associated with the increases, right now last year, our energy bill would have been $4.2 million. Look at the column next to it, SBSD total. That total, by the way, includes two numbers. It includes our bond payment I told you about. Remember I told you we have to pay a bond payment because we borrowed $27 million? So we borrowed $27 million, pay about $1.82 million back a year, and our energy used to be $2.3 million. Yet all of your energy in your homes, unless you did solar or some other kind of thing, you're paying a lot more than you paid in 2015. We're paying now less than half. So when you add the bond payment to the actual bill, we're now at $2.9 million, where we would have been at $4.2 million. In other words, we've been able to free up $1.3 million to do what you all want me and everybody else to do, educate kids. Or I would have had to cut $1.3 million of stuff for kids. So guess what? Board of Education, guess what? You're in the energy business, whether you like it or not. There you go. If we would have done nothing, we'd be the red. But we didn't do nothing. We did the blue. That's what it looks like. The other part, which is the unsung hero of it all, is we've improved the air quality. When we got to this district, and I know my high school folks in the audience can tell you, I think it was over half of the units on the roof didn't work. Just didn't work. So the air quality was problematic. Was it the year before I came that the mold? Didn't they have to spend $1 million on revamping mold? Well, forget that. Improve the air quality. What does that mean? But what about learning, Scott? Spend money on learning. Well, I'm going to tell you what. If you're in a classroom and it's boiling hot or freezing cold, you ain't learning. You need to have these things done properly, done efficiently, and to save money, not cost more money. So HVAC system improvements, we've reduced the service calls, we've improved the educational settings. Good job. Reggie, I'm not finished yet. You have to let me keep going. Health insurance. Back to my question. This is my favorite question. It's been posted on Facebook. It's a beautiful thing. I love Facebook. Why would you build a health center for staff? You're not in the healthcare business. Come on, stop it. It's $15 million. I can read a book and see, I see the number 15 million. I'm going to just keep saying it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and hopefully somebody believes me. So, from now on, whoever says that over and over again, I'm asking the whole community, take this, clip it, and post it under those comments over and over and over and over again. No matter how many times someone says it, keep posting. Okay, here we go. So, remember I told you before, we spend about 60% of our money on salaries. Second highest thing is 18.5% of our money is on health insurance. That's where we are. We have to be in the healthcare business. Because if we're not, we're just spending more money than we need to. And every dollar we spend that we don't need to spend is a dollar taken away from kids. Not a dollar taken away from energy or health care. It's a dollar taken away from kids. You need us in the healthcare business. You can thank us for being in the healthcare business. And I'm going to show you why. Of that 18%, of all the money that we spend that is not on salaries directly, 45% of it is healthcare for our staff. We insure about 1,000 staff members and their families. I think it's about 2,700 lives-ish. That's the people that we serve. 45% of the money we spend that's not on salaries, is healthcare. That's the way this works. So we're in the healthcare business. So what's the goal? We have funding cuts. We have to figure out ways to optimize. We have to. So again, we're going to show you what would happen if we just chose to do nothing. If we just did exactly what some people want us to do nothing, we would be in serious, serious trouble right now. You're welcome to this community for what this board has done to make sure we keep the money where the money should be, in the kids, in the classrooms, in the libraries. That's where the money needs to go. Overall, what about improving the health of our staff? Wow, that seems to be like a foreign concept, that a board of education would want to improve the health quality and options for staff and do it cheaper for staff as well. So I would ask you these questions. Has your health insurance gone up in the last 5 years? Has your personal premiums gone up? Have your copays? Hopefully they haven't, but they may have. Is your deductible increased? Basically, is the cost of health care more? Of course it is, and we'll show you that. So here's the problem with the COVID years, and I know that it gets tricky, so I'm going to try and do this as best I can. During the COVID years for insurance, we all know when March 2020 hit, you didn't really go anywhere. The hospitals were not full, except for COVID, which wasn't anywhere near. Elective surgeries done. So much changed. The cost spent on health care dropped. The state of New Jersey's health plan gave a rebate. We gave a rebate to our staff that year. That was incredible. So I want to try and help you understand this. And the questions I'm going to ask are about how much did you spend on gas in 2020? And when you think about that question, think about what were the factors, or what factors determine how much you spend on gas. How far you drive, that's one of them. How much the cost of gas is, that's another one. What kind of vehicle? If you were already an electric vehicle, then you didn't really spend any money on gas. And vehicle maintenance. That pretty much will determine how much you spend on gas. Well, in 2020, if the bottom three kind of all stayed the same, your gas expense for 2020 versus 2019 was probably extremely different. So what you can't do when you look at insurance is look at how much more you spent after 2020 in 2021. That's like saying, well, I didn't go to work in 2020. I didn't leave my house. And then I went to work, and I spent more on gas. So gas must have gone up in price. Gas could have gone down in price, and you'd still be spending more on gas. You have to look at the variables. The variables for health insurance are very similar to gas in 2020 and 2021. Not everybody went back to work the same way. So you have to remove variables. So we try to do that as we go. So what we're going to show you today is kind of a different look so you can actually see the actuality of how that all impacted. And in future years, we're going to talk about how this impacts. So I don't know. I still come to work every day. I'm in the same car. My gas price is going to be solely dependent on a couple of things. It's going to be dependent on my vehicle maintenance, and it's going to be dependent on the cost of gas. That's going to determine that's it for me. I have nothing else. I didn't get a new car, and that's it. I didn't change my job. So that's it. Health center. Let's talk specifically about the health center because it's been such a topic in the community. I'm going to talk about our journey to the health center. So our journey started traditional, like a normal, everyday district and company, and said, we charge someone premiums. You pay a premium. Here's how much it costs for a single. Here's how much it costs for a married couple. Here's how much it costs for a married couple with children, blah, blah, blah. There's different price points for all of those things. So in traditional, you pay the premium. Then it doesn't matter what else happens. If the premium has rules, if it has a deductible, you pay the deductible. If it has copays, you pay the copays. But the district expense is static. No risk. No risk. Premiums have no risk. If they tell us it's $30,000 for a family, then we pay $30,000 for every family there is. That's the way it works. That's it. The employee pays a percentage towards the premium. That's how this works. That's actually the way it works in the state of New Jersey. It might be different in other states. No risk. Pretty good. Pretty simple. We, however, saw a problem with that. So we said, what else can you do? Because those prices were going through the roof. You know, if you pay your own premiums, you know what I'm talking about. You're not paying anywhere near what you paid 5 years ago. So we said, well, what does it mean to be self-insured? Well, self-insured means you actually pay the claims. When someone who you insure goes to a doctor, the doctor charges you for the visit. We pay that doctor visit. Now, we do that with an admin. You all know Aetna, you know Blue Cross Blue Shield, Cigna, AmeriHealth, all the different ones. We currently work with Aetna. Aetna manages the claims. They negotiate the deals with the doctors. You know how you have it when it's in-network versus out-of-network? Those things are negotiated with the manager, in this case, Aetna for us. So we pay them an administration fee to manage the claims. We don't have a claims department. That would be a whole nother universe. We just have them do it and pay them a fee. Kind of like, there's so many different things we don't do ourselves, and then there's a lot of stuff we do ourselves. And when you don't do it yourself, it has a higher cost. But if we had to do it ourselves, we'd have to hire a lot more people with expertise at high salaries to do it. And we'd make more mistakes. But when you're self-insured, you have to be careful. Because you need what's called stop-loss insurance. What if really bad things happen in a year health-wise? So we have stop-loss insurance for two pieces. So let's make sure I do this. David, if I go off the path on this, just tell me. Our stop-loss is first for an individual. If one individual in a year, if their health needs are over a certain amount that you negotiate when you purchase it, then Symetra comes in and pays that amount. We have to have that. You can't not have that. Second is the aggregate. If we say we normally spend $24 million on health insurance, you are buying a stop loss after a certain percentage above that dollar amount. So that means the district can never be in too big a risk. And we keep a fund for that, rainy day insurance fund. So far, we've been really good. So thank you, staff. Really good. Mark, don't get any ideas with those yodels, Mark. So that's self-insurance, no health center. Still, those prices are going up every year. So what's next? What's next is this concept that's been in the state for 12 years. It's been successfully operated. There's been no signs of not success. We talked to these districts. There's a whole process we'll show you about. And we went self-insured and now operate a health center. That's what we do. That means we still pay the claims. We still pay the admin fees. We still have the stop-loss insurance. But now we also assume the cost to operate the health center. That's what we do. When I talked about ESIP, you had a bond payment when you borrowed $27 million. That's the same as the health center if you're doing apples to apples. We have a cost to operate. We had an upfront cost of $2.5 million and an annual cost of $2.5 million to operate. That's how it works. So the $2.5 million came from what's called capital reserves. Capital reserves are only allowed to be spent on capital projects. I am not allowed to take $2.5 million out of capital reserves and buy teachers. Cannot do that. The other problem when you buy what's called recurring costs, is once you've spent the $2.5 million, it's gone. So I can only do it once. Then it's gone. That doesn't help. So you have to spend it. So this Board of Education said, well, Scott, Dave, what can we do? Is there any way to use that money to help reduce other costs so we could put more money into what? Educating kids. We said we believe there is. The board said, well, it's nice that you believe that, but we would like a little bit more information. So that's the difference. That's our journey. Premiums. When I got here, we were doing premiums. That was it. And if you were a staff member here, you were told every year how much more you were spending on your health insurance. It was usually between 6 and 10%-ish, I think, back then. That's the way it worked. Premiums went up. And what you do every year, how a premium, just so you know how a little bit of an insurance lesson, how a premium works, is the companies look and they say, all right, you're 1,000 people, you spent $26 million on premiums. They want to see how much you spent on claims. Because guess what? If you only spent $26 million on premiums, but your claims were $28 million, the next year, they're raising your rates. I was going to start dancing with them. That's what happens. So it's based upon your usage, your experience level is what they call it. So that's all gone for us now. The only place that comes into play now for us really is Symetra, our stop loss. If we have a lot of people who needed to use that insurance the next year, they're going to do the same thing. They're going to raise it. What does that sound like to anybody? Car insurance. It's the same thing. If you use the car insurance, if you use your homeowner's insurance, they're going to come back and raise your rates. That's the way it goes. It's no different for us. But we have a lot more control now. And guess what? Our claims are going to skyrocket down. And we'll show you why. So, to make this very simple, it's the same slide as I used for the ESIP, where we spent $27 million up front. This one, we spent $2.5 million up front. Now we spend $2.5 million a year. And I guess you could say, well, over 5 years, you're going to spend $15 million. Yes, but like ESIP, where we spent $27 million, each year we spend $1 million less. Right, the whole $2.5 million is part of it. That's how you do this. You take it from where you were spending on health insurance already. It wasn't we had to go find $2.5 million. It's a way to define it, not new money. But again, you have to understand that to actually understand it before you just say things about it. So pay operation costs annually of $2.5 million in our health costs already. Why do you do that? Just like an ESIP, you reduce your energy. Electric car, you reduce your gas. Healthcare, you reduce your claims. That's what you're reducing. You reduce your claims. And just like in ESIP, we improved the quality of the environment. We're going to help improve the health of our staff. And if that isn't something you can get behind, I'm sorry to hear that. But that's a huge thing. And we're going to show you how the money works. Like ESIP, it frees up money for kids. But as I said before, and I will say, this board was, most of the board members. Some board members didn't ask a single question, come to meetings, do anything at all. But most board members dove in. They dove in. And that's the timeline. And I think the most impressive component up there was in that May 2021. But it took a year, 2 years almost, to completion before we were able to really get this off the ground and do it. But the board, I don't know, it was about 150, 160 questions that they asked. They toured facilities. I mean, it was extensive. This wasn't just Scott said this or Dave said this. The board took this under their wing and really made this a project for themselves to learn what they needed to learn before they'd make such a decision. Because that's what you do. You don't just jump, especially when you're spending $2.5 million up front or committing to a contract. You don't do that. So they didn't. They put us through the ringer as well, and they did it. And we looked at it. So let's get to some numbers shortly, but this is the general way it works. When you are working with admin and all of these other things, you're paying more money. You have all these other fees you don't see. It's kind of like if you're, you invest with a mutual fund, there's always fees, and there's always fees. Everyone's got fees. There's a fixed contracted fee. It's out of what David said, the current budget. We didn't pull $2.5 million from kids. We were already spending the money on health care. It wasn't new money. None of it. Triple aim. I love that little term. Improve the patient experience. Improve the health of the whole population at the same time reducing. Or at sometimes you can't reduce, you're just controlling. Healthcare is out of whack, just like a lot of other things in our society with finances. If you can't reduce it, you got to at least try to control it. And that's what we're doing here. So, again, it's a 7-day-a-week operation. It's beautiful. There's dedicated physicians and nurse practitioners and x-ray machines and lab work. It's gorgeous. I love it. They can go to it. They can also go to other ones, by the way, other people in the partnership. So if you live closer to Long Branch, let's say, or Toms River, or Franklin Park's going to open one. They're already in the works, I know. There's going to be a whole bunch of them. These are going to be coming. Luckily enough, South Brunswick's on the front end of it, not the back end, when all these prices will go higher to do these things. We're in the front end. We're in the beginning of the game. Due to better healthcare management, think of it, if you have better healthcare management, you have less healthcare costs. But more importantly, you have better healthy people. Copays. So our employees don't pay a copay anymore if they go there. Not even a copay for x-ray, no copay for even pharmacy. Nothing. And it's still cheaper. So all of this optimization wasn't just to have a health center. It wasn't just to win a health center award. Is there a health center award, Dave? No. It was to do better for less. It was the true example of number one, do better for less. So here's a scenario. And this happens to be a real life scenario that we just witnessed one, but we can talk about tons of these examples. Now, money is not just about money. There's things called soft costs. And the biggest one right there is loss of learning. If we happen to have a teacher who's using the health center, and we did the other day, who came on their lunch, they were able to make an appointment because it's same day appointments, immediate appointments. That's another beautiful thing. And what does that do? You know, you've had to get doctor's appointments. It's not so easy all the time. They get same day appointments. They are open 7 days a week, before school, after school, during lunch. So this teacher came on her lunch, got whatever blood work, a visit from the doctor, paid nothing, got back in the car, went back in to teach class. Let's talk about what that one little thing means to the district. That one little thing. That means there was no loss of learning. That teacher did not have to take, let's go even just a half day. A half day also cost the district $80. That's how much it costs us when a teacher takes a half day, $80. Actual cash, $80. But there's no, what is it worth when they don't miss the teaching? What's that worth? No bill for the doctor visit, right? So there's no claim. You reduce the claim. Discounted bill for the lab work if there was lab work done. Happy staff member. Managed care. That one visit has an enormous value. So you should ask, well, how many visits? How often does this happen? Is that really happening, or are they not even using it? We're going to show you that. So the board can see it, the community can see it. So here's the utilization. Let's see what utilization means. Utilization means that you have a visit, you saw a physician, you might have gone for physical therapy, and you might have gotten something at the pharmacy. All of those things, every time that happens, a claim is not created. So when we say it costs $2.5 million to operate, just think of what that means when none of those claims are being processed. Like ESIP, what happens is your overall health care costs go down So yes, you spent $2.5 million up front. Nothing compared to the $27 million we spent on ESIP and now save money every year. Healthcare, $2.5 million, healthier staff. And the utilization, when we embarked on this, the board said, well, how are we going to know when it's working? Well, you'll know when it's working after you do this for a little while. But right off the bat, we're looking at 458 is the number that equates to reduce claims in an effort to reduce your costs. That's how it works. Our first full month of operation was January. So you could say, well, it's new, it's shiny. People go to the new shiny thing the first year, but then they don't go anymore. So you look, still new and shiny. Went up about the same. Bad month in April. I don't know what happened in April. Everyone was healthy in April. May, June, July, you'd expect a drop, but boom in August, and back in business in September with 780 utilizations a month. We're going to keep watching this. We're going to talk to staff and see what's working, what's not. I'm going to show you what it looks like as well. These are hard numbers. That's just visits. Now you add the RX, the pharmacy. So the blue is services. The red is pharmacy. Every time someone gets a prescription filled here instead of CVS, it costs us less money. Every time. The estimate based upon the low usage we're seeing so far with pharmacy, that's a low usage. We expect that number to be probably closer to 1,000 as we go, once we get more deep in. These numbers are already way off the charts for us, but they're not where they need to be in the long term. We expect them to get much higher. But every time you pick up your blood pressure med or anything that you're getting, we're paying CVS. And guess what? CVS ain't doing it out of the goodness of their hearts. They're getting paid. We eliminated the middleman. We are the middleman. We're estimating a minimum savings a year just out of RX in the $250,000 to $500,000 range. Just that. By doing exactly what staff would be doing anyway, taking care of themselves and their family. Now, if you're a staff member, let's play this one out. Watch this little scenario. And this is why we think it's attractive. I need my 2 kids to get their checkups. I need, they both get medication. And I'm going to go to the doctor as well. And I might need an x-ray or lab work or all that. One-stop shopping. Go right there and pay $0 and get your prescription and go home. That's attractive. All of us would want that experience. Well, if you want to be attractive to get the best available staff to work here, a little added bonus, not in the cost savings. So here's what it looks like. This is a monthly chart. So if you look on the right-hand side, the specialized services, acupuncture. Do you want to know? Do you know how much money we spent on acupuncture before we were doing this? Not just the health center, but everything. $500,000. Yeah, you all like acupuncture out there. I know what you're doing. I was like, what is going on in this acupuncture place that was spending $500,000? And it was like one acupuncture doctor. Like, what does this guy do? So that was interesting. For staff that are listening right now, just so you know, we know who you are. No, we don't. We actually have no idea who does what. We don't get that information. We don't look at the individuals. We don't look at who's doing what. That isn't how this works. There's no big brother activity here. Right, David? Okay. You heard that, right, Mark? Okay. So let's look at the kind of services you can get here. You have behavioral health. You have care coordination. You have physical. You have COVID testing, flu shots, labs, services, pharmacy, physical therapy. Physical therapy is getting popular. That I'm hearing a lot about. And that person is only here part-time. So you have to kind of match it when it works for you. You have a physician. We have a nurse. We have telemedicine. X-rays. Not much usage on the X-ray. Good. We don't need people to use X-rays. All that exists in a beautiful setting right in the district for free. So when we say we're not in the healthcare business, this is what that would look like. Right now, this year, if we did nothing since 2020, total costs in 2020 was $27 million all in. That includes contributions from the staff for their own health care that gets offset from that number. If we would have applied the 5.26% New Jersey trend, we would have lost $1.5 million by just continuing to pay premiums. Now, we didn't have a health center yet. That's from just going self-insured. We didn't do health center yet. 2021, still no health center. That was the year after COVID. Remember the gas? Everything went down. Everything went down. The next year went back up, back to that 5.4%. So again, if we were just paying premiums and we acted as if we were not in the healthcare business, and we didn't care because we weren't going to focus on operations that could actually help kids, we would right now be looking at $3.5 million of loss and cuts today, right now. That's where we'd be. This is what it looks like. The blue line is our number. Everybody went down in COVID. Every industry of insurance went down in COVID year. You can't use COVID. And here's what you can say, right? You can't say this. You can't say, well, this isn't working. This is not smart at all. You were only spending $25 million in 2021. Now look at you. Now you're spending $28 million. You've increased it by 20%. What are you doing? This is bad business. You can't do that. Come on. You have to look at all the information. You have to look at expected growth, actual growth, and all the factors. You can't talk about health insurance and compare growth from 2020. Just like you cannot compare how much it cost you to do your job when you didn't go to work for 7 months, and now you go to work, and you're going to talk about how your gas prices are so much more now. Come on. We have to be more open and honest about these things. You have to be. So, in any way, the health center is an absolutely beautiful thing. And I thank the board for doing this for our staff and showing the care that you gave to our staff. In doing so, caring for kids, because you're helping those teachers stay in front of those kids, which they all want to do. You're helping our bus drivers stay on those buses, people that work in the lunchroom in those lunchrooms, and you're doing it for less money over time. That's impressive. And I am proud to say I was here for that one, unlike I can't say I did the ESIP one. So what does this all mean? Now, this slide is a different slide. I used this slide before, but I adjusted the numbers to now the reality. Just estimates, but we're looking at next year, if nothing changes, $11 million in the hole. Lisa Rogers, our board president, David, our BA, and myself met with Andrew Zwicker, I guess about 3 weeks ago. And he said, what do you need? We said, we need $13 million. So we want a line item for $13 million. That's what we asked for. We asked. He's talking about stabilization aid. Well, we're in the middle of, we just filled out another stabilization aid application. We'll get some money. I just hope it's close to $11 million. Right now, the reason this works the way it works is the stabilization aid of $2.6 million. And the reason it doesn't say $4 million is because we got one $3 million bump, and we only used half of it so that we can use the other half next year to keep things alive. We've talked about that 100 times at board meetings already. So we have a $2.6 million hole before we wake up in the morning. We have a $4.8 million S2 expected reduction. The rollover I told you is about $6 million bucks, and we're able to get the 2.4 from the tax levy increase. All that comes out to a minus $11 million. That's the reality. I hope it's not. We're going to fight real hard to avoid it, and I don't think we're going to be at zero, but I hope we're not anywhere near 11 million. So what are we doing? When we do this, when we approach this, we're going to approach it the same way we approach this, but we're going to add a little flavor to it. We're going to focus on our mental and physical health. We're not going to cut that area. We're not going to try and cut anything to do with building level safety, security, student academics, supports, all of those, and our behavior management supports our academics. We're going to try as hard as we can to stay away from all that, no matter how much money it is. We got that from our working group this year, but we're going to extend it this year. We're going to be sending out, at minimum, a survey or two to ask prioritization levels. Now, one thing that I've been told before is when you lose something, why didn't you ask us first? And I get that. I really do. Why didn't you ask us if it was okay? Well, because we can't ask you if it's okay. Because no one is going to say it's okay. And if I ask 5 different groups of people if they're okay if I take their thing, no one just says, yes, you can take my thing. Take someone else's thing. Leave my thing alone. That's the way it works. And that's the nature of the beast, and no one's wrong for that. But what we're going to try and do is ask questions in a way that allows people to answer them without having to be, it's their own personal thing. It's tricky. It's a tricky survey to do. The other thing we are considering doing is forums to anybody who's interested, so we can have open conversations. From there, we'll make a plan and have prioritization lists and do that. This is too much money for us to solve. We've been solving it for years. The only reason you're not looking at all of these bad things already is because we've been solving them for years with this Board of Education. Because they've given us the green light after they put us through the ringer to do really hard things and good things for the district. Not everybody's going to open a health center. Not anybody's going to spend $27 million on energy. It's forethought. It's insight. It's intelligent. And the thing it's doing is it's giving our kids so that right now, after losing $9 million and being stuck on a 2% cap for all these years, we've cut almost nothing. Almost nothing. So what if we didn't do all these things? Well, if we didn't do the preschool, $700,000. If we didn't do the health benefit changes and we didn't do all those things, we had state health benefits. State health benefits is $4 million more. If we didn't invest in the health center, I don't know how much more, but we'd be spending more money. So yes, we spent a little money up front, but remember, $27 million on energy. No one seems to care about that one. If we didn't fight for school-based youth services, we would have already lost. We would have already lost our money for the Bridge Academy at the high school and the Bridge Academy at the high school. Raphael, can I share? Or is it not really shareable yet? You sure? All right, Raphael over here, he's a good fighter. He's been fighting with DCF. DCF controls the purse strings for our Bridge Academy. They've told us over and over and over again, you cannot use the Bridge Academy at Crossroads North. Only Crossroads South. Well, he's a very persistent human being, this man. And he stayed on top of them, and he was very excited because he found a new human in DCF. A whole new human. And that human actually answered him and then met with him and then told them that we can use the services for North. Yes. So now our middle school in its whole, as well as our high school, have school-based youth services. We'll have the Bridge Academy. And that was going to cost us $380,000 more. Now it won't. Thank you, Raph. Woohoo! That fight started about 2 years ago. I led a charge in Atlantic City with all the superintendents and board members involved with that. My colleague Jeff at Hunterdon has been leading the charge with me, and Lisa and Julie Borst from Save Our Schools. We've been fighting this hard. Last budget meeting we went to at the Senate, Senator Ruiz herself said, we have to stop fighting about this and just put it in the budget and leave it there and stop fighting about it. As of right now, we have not lost this funding for next year. If we lose that funding for next year, that's $550,000 we got to find. And the $550,000 will not get us the services we currently have. The services we currently have are over $800,000. Some of it's paid for by DCF. $550,000 is paid for by DCF. We pay the other portion. That would be massive for us. Big problem. So we're going to keep fighting. If we didn't apply for all the stabilization aid, we would just be out $4 million right now. So it's holding us together. If we didn't apply for FEMA, thanks to Dave's office, Dave and Kelly banging away at FEMA, all that COVID money, they found another $600,000 of money. That's one-time money, but we'll take it. We need it. So again, good news, right? I was talking to Sharon Johnson, our Director of Technology today. She's having a meeting next week to try and get them to donate 1,200 Chromebooks. We do not stop trying to figure out how to solve this problem. We have not come to the community and asked for anything. We're doing everything possible. We're holding it together. We have a lot more work to do, but we're going to continue doing it because that's still what's possible. That is still looming over our heads right now. Now, the charge moves. This is my final presentation and discussion on budget and all matters related to the budget. All matters related to the budget. I am now moving to fight in Trenton. So I'm not going to be in classrooms like I'd love to be. I'm not going to be in the schools. I'm going to be in the doorsteps of the hall. That's where I'm going to be. Writing letters, fighting, and fighting so that doesn't happen for us. So yes, I make a lot of money, and I thank you for that. I'm going to try and make sure you get it back. Advocacy. I'm one of the people advocating. I need all 9 of you. I need all of you. All of you. We need everybody. We have to try and protect the fabric here. Our challenges are that Bridge Academy, still out in the air, all the unfunded stuff, the staffing costs, the transportation costs, blah, 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 blah. School security, something we finally say, I can talk about something positive. So we saved school security, right? It's a point of pride. We built on it. We keep doing it. We keep doing it. Keep spending there because that's where we need to spend some money. Our mental health supports, we have not decreased. Trust me, we've added, since I've been here, we've added quite a bit at all levels. We have now full-time in every elementary school. We have 3 in each middle school. I don't know, do we have 12, 13-ish high school-ish? None of you are, no. I'm going to use the higher number, 13, at the high school. Academic programming at all high levels, we keep doing well. Our SAT scores keep continuing to rock, even though they're not quite as important as they used to be. Tons of advanced placement, we haven't touched those at all. Extracurriculars, tons and tons, and we want to keep doing that. For example, this year, if you remember, Ohm came to one of our meetings, and he was fighting for chess club. And Lauren, chess club, fully operational, right? 80 kids? 91 kids, right? So that's what we're talking about. Those are the things that are gone. But I can tell you, when you have a thing for 91 kids that didn't have it before, that could be their day. That could be their day. And now what happens if I got to take it away? That could kill their day. That's where those 91 kids, some of them might be the only place they belong in a day. Some of them might be just another great thing I get to belong to. The more opportunities we can, the better. Hugely important. And thank you again for what you guys do out there. Our arts program is amazing. I think we win. I don't even know how much we win. Our music department is insane. Our art, you saw what our art department produces. It's amazing. It's incredible. And we don't want to lose it. We don't want to lose it. So you know what we do? We become energy consultants. We become involved in healthcare. That's what we do. So we don't lose these things. We still have great class size. I'm hanging on to that, not by a lot. And we haven't borrowed $1. We're doing all this. We haven't borrowed $1. And the healthcare, which we showed you, we budgeted flat. Areas of focus still remain, more opportunities. We want to keep improving the overall academics. It never stops. Struggling learners are still kids who did not come out of COVID well. That isn't over just because we're a few years out. We're still putting a lot of time and energy there. Continue the mental health. It is not over, by far not over. Manage the expected massive additional loss of funding. We still have to go through all this. We're not done yet. Keep advocating. Grow that preschool. So again, like I told you, in November we have to decide if we're adding more. So we have to come up with all that in November. Keep identifying revenue generators. I mean, that's what Dave does all day. He comes up and comes in with crazy ideas. Create systems for homegrown future staff, right? I mean, if this continues, the teacher shortage, we got to figure out how to keep our own people. We got to figure that out. So, Reggie, this is the last slide, Reggie. Don't go down on me now. Reggie. All right. This is the same slide I've used for every budget presentation for about 3 years. Stay unified, advocate, avoid finger pointing, stay informed. Please stay informed and address misinformation. I promise to continue to do that vigorously. Sometimes angrily, and I apologize for that, but vigorously. With that said, to the board, I would welcome you back to your chairs. And I'll set up this part if you don't mind. You want to do questions first? So I understand the board would like to ask some questions first, and then what we'll do after the board is finished, Dave and I will do our best to answer your questions and then do our best to answer the questions of the public. When we get to the public part, I'll just explain it now, Lisa, before we start. All questions associated with the budget, you don't have to wait for public comment. You can come up, sit up in the front, and you get one question, and then if there's time after that, you can ask more questions after that. And I'm in no rush. I'm here. So
We'll start at the right. If there's
Start
any
at the right.
questions about the budget. Oh, Barry, we'll start all the way to the right with Laura. It'll just be easier.
Okay, so I just want to make this, be clear on this. How many years have you been discussing this budget? Like coming up every year?
2019.
So 2019, so that's 4 years that you've been projecting this and
In 2018, it didn't look like this was going to happen to us.
Okay. And everything that you projected in all these slides that you've done have been said in public and are posted on our website?
Been there for years.
Been there for years, so they're very accessible to anybody that wants them, correct?
Been there for years.
Okay, so we're very informed of what situation we're in with what the state is doing, correct? How the state is taking money from us. I see here, can I make a comment as opposed to a question? Okay, so I see that we're losing a lot of money and we're attacking each other. And this fight isn't here in South Brunswick. The fight is South Brunswick with Trenton? Is that what we're talking about? Like,
My perspective, yes.
that's where we need to go, is to Trenton. So I work in a district, and I've worked in several districts, where money is thrown at them, where they receive a lot of money.
Yep.
And it is beyond mismanaged. You need to know. Now, I'm not great with numbers. I've talked to David before, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know how you do that. I don't quite get that stuff. But he is amazing. And they are taking, I'm going to compare it to when I was a child. I come from a family of 7. And there would be many times where we would have just like a pound of meat to feed the whole family. And what my mother did with that was amazing. You know, you had the breadcrumbs, you had the cheese, you had the potatoes, and you fed 7 people with a little bit. That's what Dave and Scott are doing here in South Brunswick. They're taking that little bit and they are stretching it more than you have any idea. Because I've seen on the opposite end where people are getting prime rib thrown at them and filet mignon thrown at them, and they're just eating a piece and throwing it away. So I really wanted to make that clear, being I have a different perspective, I could say, from some of my colleagues sitting up here. As a resident of South Brunswick, paying taxes, as an educator receiving, by the way, state insurance, and seeing budgets from in other districts and how that money is being spent, and then sitting here as a board member and seeing the many meetings that our finance committee's meeting, the endless conversations that happen with our BA and our superintendent. There is so much going on. I am not a big Facebook person. And I hear some of this stuff going on Facebook, and I'm just like, what? It just blows my mind. But no, Dave and Scott are taking that 1 pound of ground beef and stretching it more than you have any idea, so our kids are not being affected. That is a fact. And I hope that you do look at the 4-5 years of budgets that have been presented and budgets that are on our website and all the explanations, so there's no, I didn't know, they didn't tell me, I didn't hear that. Yeah, that, they did tell you. They did post it. It is there. It is accessible. Know that. So if anybody's gonna come up with anything else, you can't say that anymore because it is there. Also with the insurance, that health center, I'll be honest, when I first heard about that, I went, I don't know. I don't know if it was Dave or Scott gave me like this big gigantic packet to read. And it took me a while, it was like 160 pages. And then a bazillion questions that the board asked when I wasn't on the board. Because I wanted to see what they, like, did you guys just okay this? Did you just rubber stamp this? And I saw not only so many questions, but in-depth questions. Questions that were asked and they were answered, but then they wanted more answer. Well, I'm not satisfied with that answer. And well, what about this? Packet I got, and it took me days to read that stuff. That was not taken lightly. Then I'm like, all right, well, that's in paper. Let me go see this health center. Blown away. In my district, we have the state insurance, and I'm in education, which is what South Brunswick was going to get. I called up Scott, and I said, could you explain the difference to me? And when he explained it to me, how you were absolutely here in South Brunswick, the employees in South Brunswick, that we have to give them insurance. Like, that's not even an option, that's a non-negotiable. So we are giving them better, and I am living proof that they are getting better insurance than I am getting. They are having more access than I have. They are getting there quicker than I can, and I'm paying more money than they are. So know that. This isn't a flip it like, oh yeah, let's make this look good. Because I will be honest, at first I really was like, yeah, I need to check this out and see. So I personally went down there and I looked and I made them explain it to me. And you guys are getting more bang for your buck than you realize. And as an educator, you know what? We got families and we need to insure those people. You know, so be clear on what you're either fighting for or fighting against, because that is a really good thing that we have here. And I have made it very clear that I'm pretty jealous that I don't have a healthcare center in my district. And I also want to know why the board members can't be part of that healthcare center.
Well, actually, since you said that, it was actually part of an Oprah request that we recently just received, the 26-part Oprah request. And one of the parts of the Oprah request was, what are you guys getting out of this?
Nada.
Nothing.
We get nothing. You know what we get? We get the satisfaction of knowing we're giving our teachers who service our children the absolutely best services that we can. In that 1 pound of meat, they're getting so much more. So please realize that and question it. But sometimes when you question something, the answer is no. The answer is no. We want to give it to you, but we just can't. And I've also said, well, you didn't investigate it enough. I personally walked, I'm just going to go on to this. With the bus route, with the busing, I walked that route. When they told us that they had to pull us, and I understand, I grew up in South Brunswick. I walked to school, and it was like 1.9 miles. So we didn't get buses, so I had to walk to school. But I said, all right, let me check out what they're doing, what's going on here? So I walked it. So when we said, hey, it stinks, but we get it, please don't say we don't know what we're talking about. Please don't say we didn't care enough. Please don't say we did not do a survey, because we did. Please don't say we didn't reach out to the police department for the safety factor. We did. And sometimes, please don't say you didn't give us an answer and we're waiting for an answer and you didn't. Sometimes the answer is no. We're really sorry, but it's no. And that's only for a very small percentage when we have 1 pound of meat that we're working with. That's it.
Thank you for your
That's all.
comment. Alicia, any comments?
You said that we were scheduled to have 1.2 million taken away in funding, but we actually got 4 million taken away in funding, right? So do you think that the state could do something like that again?
Yeah, so in the slide, I actually put 14 million minimum. So I'll explain what happened. So the formula they uses the valuation of the town as a primary piece of the formula. We don't quite know how they quite get that number, but they use that number. When we looked at the formula change and saw that they were taking 1.2 million, but it actually wound up being 4 million, the only thing that was different that we could identify was the valuation of the town went up from 10 billion in their formula the year before to 11 billion. So since what they're saying is the state should not be giving money if the town has enough money to fund it themselves. So when they see 11 billion, that you're worth $1 billion more in 1 year, their formula kicks in and it kicked the number from 1.2 to 4. So the biggest fear is what if we're worth 12 billion when they do the math this year? Then the 5 million could be worse for next year. Dave?
They also utilize a portion of the equation that they utilize deals with district income and the district income value of the town. And as people in South Brunswick continue to make more money, there's a multiplier that is also inclusive of what they say the district income, and that goes up every year as well with salaries. So that has an impact as well.
And just to be clear, none of those numbers are put in, like by the township or the school district. It isn't that the township said we're worth $1 billion more. The school district has nothing to do with any of that component of the formula at all. So the short answer to your question is sadly, that's very possible.
Those two multipliers are in that top secret meeting that Scott mentioned earlier that was open.
Well, what we really like about the one multiplier is when you look back at each year of the formula, and I've always used this before, you're pretty good at math, Alicia. I know what you do. So if I said to you, I need to find the circumference of a circle, you would say, well, then I need the diameter or the radius because the formula is 2 pi r, right? I did that right? Did I do that right? I hope I did that right. So 2 pi r. So pi is 3.14 and like a 7 zillion numbers after it. Every time. It's always the same. This number, this piece of the formula changes every year. So a formula that has a variable number that changes each year. It's not exactly what I always grew up understanding a formula to be. So sadly, I have no good answer to your question.
Not yet. Sorry.
But just-
Board only, not yet. Next.
And the state is entitled to not give that formula, right? The state's not entitled to give out that formula?
We sued the state, and they won.
Yeah.
It's proprietary.
And then one other thing, you said that we will, if the township doesn't pay the $300K cost for security, we will have to end up paying for that.
We already pay for it.
Okay.
We already pay for that. So it's part of our budget.
Gotcha.
We were asked to ask. We were originally, we asked for any kind of help in offsetting the $350,000. And then we were asked to ask for the whole $350,000. So we asked.
Okay.
If you tell me to ask for money, I'm good. I can do that. I'm really good at asking for money.
Any other questions, Alicia?
Just one more. It's about the Bridge Academy. So you said that we will most likely be able to get it for Crossroads North. Do you know when that's going to start?
Yeah, so that's like fresh. That's this week that we just got that news. And they are redoing the contract. So right now there's a contract between South Brunswick and the DCF. And then Rutgers is our provider. Rutgers is ready to rock. It's not new money. It's just utilizing the existing staff for all the kids that should have access to it. So we're ready to rock. As soon as they say, tell Rutgers they can go, we would then readjust where people, sit and how we would do that, and then start servicing the kids at North, who, like, for last year did not have this service.
That's amazing. I actually went to North and we didn't have that, so
No.
it's really great to hear.
Yeah, good, thanks.
Thanks, Alicia. Mike, any questions?
Yes, well, to piggyback on what Alicia's speaking about, DCF, would you please define that for those who do not understand?
Division of Children and Family.
Okay.
So DCF is the organization that runs all the things like DCP&P, is child welfare, all of those kind of services. And they're also in charge of the school-based youth money. It's about $30 million in the state, of which we get a really nice chunk. We get $550,000. Only 90 schools in the state get this money. DCF does not want to give this money away anymore. DCF has lobbied and wrote a very long paper and did a supposed research study, which we caught them on as not really doing research, and that was part of why we won, that they should do something else and not use this money. Our point was, no, this is what works. Do more of this. Stop doing the things that are not working and reallocate your money to what's working. So they're now running 2 parallel programs. One is called NJ4S. Not sure exactly what it stands for, other than I'm pretty sure I know what the NJ stands for. The service is 3 clinicians, 3, for the entire Middlesex County. 3. We have 5 clinicians. They're thinking that 3 will service the county. We don't want any part of this. We want no part of that program. We'll never get a service out of it. It'd be a waste of money for us. So that's what we're fighting with DCF. Our whole fight has been with DCF, not with Rutgers. So much so that we even met with the governor's office about this multiple times last year.
Also, I'm with Laura. I'm a school employee myself, and I'm a little jealous of what you're getting here. How is it possible for you not to pay for anything, for an employee not to have to pay for anything? I'm a 21-year-old just starting to teach. How's that possible?
It's a great question, actually. Here's how it's possible. When you go to the doctor, you go to you Aetna, you're Aetna. So Aetna gave you a list of doctors.
Right.
With every one of those doctors, they've negotiated a pay scale. They know. If you ever see a doctor give you a sheet at the end and you bring the sheet up to the front and they circle a number or they write some notes, that's coding for how they bill, right? So if we were paying for you to go to the doctor, that has been a negotiated price, but that's in addition. So that's a claim we have to pay. You offset the claim because the doctor, because the insurance company and your employer have negotiated what you're going to pay as a copay. The higher your copay, the cheaper the premium, right? That's how that works. So that way when you go to the doctor, if you have no copay, that means your premiums are higher. That's how this whole thing works. It's like car insurance. If you have car insurance and your deductible determines ultimately how much your premium is going to be. So if you're willing to have a $5,000 deductible on your car, that just means you'll get no insurance until it's after $5,000 worth of damage, right? So the deductible plans are cheaper premiums, but more guaranteed money out of pocket if you need the insurance. For us, to get right to your question, the reason that no one pays is the amount of money spent to run the center is static. It's a static number, right? We pay this much money to operate the center. We want to encourage people to use the center because when they use the center, One, we believe it's better care than just going to a clinic or going to an urgent care. We can manage care really well from down there, and I think that's been the feedback we've received from staff. So you get that benefit, and the district's financial benefit is you have no claim. You've made no claim. So the cost of all of that is offset, enough so that at the end of the day, even though there's rising healthcare costs, we'll either be able to maintain our healthcare costs, reduce our healthcare costs, or the increase will be far lower than the expected growth of the normed amount of money that healthcare grows in a year nationally and in New Jersey. That was a very elongated answer, Mike. I apologize for that. But that really is kind of the crux of how it all works.
And you have to have insurance to start with to be eligible for this program.
You have to take insurance from the district.
Right.
So otherwise, you don't get it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. You're very welcome.
Yes, thank you. I have a few statements and then I have some questions of Mr. Federer. First, Lisa makes fun of me and, we kid, but, because how long I've been sitting here. I'm in my 22nd year. The teachers that are here and the staff that are here, a lot of you remember 2010. 2010 was one of the most dismal years this district ever had. Because what happened is the governor decided to, instead of doing what is being done now, where you can almost kind of plan for it, we didn't get a chance to plan. He said, South Brunswick, I'm taking $6.5 million from your budget. And back then we had something called free balance, and that was all gone. We had to pay staff, we had to pay things. So unlike, and I've heard this brought up over my 22 years constantly, and I know, all the teachers have, Mr. Feder has, and of course Dave has, and most of the board members have, okay? Well, it's like any budget in business. No, it isn't. We have more fixed costs than any budget you can ever do. So they took the $6.5 million, and for the first time and the last time, while I've been sitting here, we had to cut staff drastically. We had to say goodbye. We had no choice. We couldn't cut programs. So that's when pay for play came in effect, because the sports team begged us to do something, and they offered that up. Morning Band came to us and begged us and paid for their buses. So I don't know about any of you, okay? Talk to your neighbors that were here. Talk to your teachers and your staff that were here. But that day, that year, was the worst that I ever had. It was the first and only time that I almost considered leaving.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So,
Oops, I thought it was done.
so Mr. Feder, on that note, okay, you please explain to the public how many fixed costs that we have, or Dave can do it, one or the other, that we have so much fixed costs that, because if we don't work within that stuff, we have to cut programs. Is that basically what the deal is?
85% of your budget is fixed. 15% is variable,
So the only place we can cut is the 15%.
unless you're going after salaries,
Well, yeah, you can.
healthcare,
I mean, it's
transportation.
not quite that cut and dry. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a good way to look at it, but at the end of the day, once you get past that 15%, you're cutting programs.
Program.
Programs or staff?
Staff.
Well, staff are programs.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't want to delay the public from
Yes.
asking questions. So I'm going to add, I know that other board members do have questions they're asking to ask. We can either do one of two things. We can have the public come up first, or we could just wrap it up. But no, we can't have any
My suggestion,
comments like that.
these people came out tonight.
I know, it's, I
to
don't want
ask
them to-
questions.
Okay.
They were told they
Can
would
we
have an
hold and
opportunity.
we'll ask after? All right,
And then let the board,
we'll ask after.
the board's getting paid all this extra money to be here, so let
Yeah.
them,
Oh, my God. it's not good. Okay, so here's how we'll do it then. We're going to do just a change of plans here, because we do have questions, but I agree, I don't want to hold, because people have to work tomorrow.
can I
Well, I
just
do
lay out
too,
the
but,
rules?
okay.
Can I just lay down the rules?
Yeah, so we're
So
going to have
here's
some
how we'll do it.
rules.
You'll see there's a sign-in sheet up there, but that's not for now. If you have a question, please come up to the front so that we see you have questions. You can ask your question, ask one question. If at the end of everyone has a chance to ask a question, if you'd like to ask another question, of course, we'll do that. You know, it's the way it goes. But we like you to try and do as fast as we can. We'll see how many people we have that have questions, and we'll go from there and see what it looks like.
This is specific to budget only, the presentation that Mr. Fetter just gave. There's a sign, oh, yes.
No
we
sign-in.
don't- You don't need
You
to
don't
do
have to
that
sign in.
sign-in.
I just
That's
asked
for
You can just
public
ask, you just
comment.
come up here and ask your question. You don't have
Thank
to
you.
announce your name or anything, just ask your
That's
question.
okay.
All right. My name is Pankaj Patel, and I have a question to Mr. Feder.
Yes.
That was awesome presentation. Thank you for that. You mentioned about revenue generator. Who should I talk to share the idea, or shall I share idea now?
Are you saying that you have an idea for revenue generation?
Correct.
I would love to hear that. Would you be able to send me an email tomorrow?
Sure. What's your email address?
It's on the website, but scott.fetter@sbschools.org. And then I could get a chance to talk with you and probably bring David in and
Perfect.
hear what you're talking about, because revenue
you.
generation,
Okay.
you might be our new best friend.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Hey, my name is Narayanan. One thing I just want to tell, right? I think nobody is against getting staff a good care. Scott, like we are just saying, right? Like, don't point a picture that staff, we don't want to get a good care. We want everybody to get a good care, right? So on that, I see companies like JP Morgan Chase and Berkshire Hathaway, they spend billions in doing this, but they failed. So obviously everybody have a question. That's why they are asking. It's not like anybody wants to pay, like don't want to take care of the staff. Everybody wants to take a good care, but might be board had asked all the questions you answered. But public answering, might be you have to, like you presented it. I was there in one of the other meetings, this was not in detail. Even in this one, I don't know if you went into that detail exactly how much you are saving or anything like that. You put some number like, okay, we will be spending 3 million or we are saving 3 million, but might be more info might help to educate everybody. And another thing, did we look into why the enrollment is going down in the school?
Well, I don't understand the question.
Enrollment is going down
Oh,
in the
so
school.
we hired a demographer, and what the demographer has shown us is people are not moving out at the rate in which they used to move out. So it's called an aging community. The normal process of someone who is in a home is they buy the home or live in the home. When their children get to a certain age, either after high school or after college or shortly after that, then the traditional movement of a home is that the home sells, the family, the adult parents go somewhere else. In our community, the demographer is finding that people are staying long after their children are out of college. So you're not seeing, right now, everywhere you're not seeing a lot of homes for sale. That's the economy and the interest rates. But in this particular town, even before that happened, people were not leaving. I guess people really like it here. They weren't leaving, therefore freeing up the turnover. So I don't know when you moved in, but if you moved into a new development, if you did, at that point, lots of families, similar age, kids are similar. When we moved in to our development in Millstone, when we moved there, we had missed the run. Our children were about 6 years younger than the group that had come in. But now, once we sold our house, all of our houses were selling as all the people like my age, old like me, older, we all moved out, and now my whole neighborhood in Millstone, where I left, there's kids everywhere. And my kids grew up with very few kids on the bus from that neighborhood. Now they probably need, a lot more because there's so many more kids. So that's what the demographer was telling us.
So even with the new homes that's being built, there are many communities came up. So still, it's just the demographics that's causing it's not like kids doesn't want to come to South Brunswick or they want going to private school.
No, it's nothing to do with people going somewhere else. It's that the homes, so when those homes start getting built, you're going to see an influx, which is going to be a challenge for us because right now we're able to utilize the reduction in enrollment to offset some of the expenditures. But as soon as that goes away and people start coming and we have to add classes, if the money isn't solved by then, that's a problem. But thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comment for the budget?
Hi, this is Biren. I would like to know the ratio of per student teachers and per number of students per administration staff. What is the ratio?
So the per student ratio at the elementary school is between 21 and 22. At the middle school, around 24. The high school, it's a very different kind of question at the high school because it doesn't function the same way. I can tell you we're going to be looking at class size at the high school a little closer for next year's budget. But right now, where the money has been, the high school's given up because they've reduced, so they've lost some instructional staff. The middle school has not had enough of a decrease to lose any staff at this point because they work in a team setting. So you can say a team of 5 teachers would have somewhere between, figure about 120 to maybe 135 kids in a team. So that would be the middle school divided by 5. Again, elementary, the K and 2 area, lower. Preschool's 15. 3-5, you're probably in the 22 to 25 range. The other challenge we have in a district like this is unless we were willing to move kids from any school, regardless of where they live, based upon numbers, you'd have a problem where you have, the best example I can give you is let's say there's 30 kids in a first grade in one school. Your choice is to have 1 for 30 or 2 for 15. So instead of looking at individually, I do it by average, and that's why I gave you those numbers for the average. As far as the ratio for administration, at the high school level, it is 1 to 475, I think. At the middle school, it is about 1 to 350. At the elementary schools, it ranges from 1 to 200-ish to 1 to 300.
So,
and we are third from the bottom of the county at costs for administration.
So with all these numbers, is there any plan for next 5 years? How can we be more efficient? Or is there a discussion about that? Because since the cost is always going to go up, so in that case, you have to be efficient. We have to be efficient. Everybody, like with Parent-Teacher Association, outside partners, outside whatever companies are there, they can pitch in. So is there a plan for improving that with the taking help of the community?
If you mean like you helping teach kids?
Of course, that's one part of it.
Yeah, so
like let's say if some
that's
parent
a
is
no.
good in...
We can't do that. That's
Okay.
you'd have to have certification.
Okay.
So that's not us not wanting that. It's just not allowed to do that.
Okay.
So the bigger answer to your question, then I'll get to the next person, is there's a plan to look at every single line item in our budget and to assess what we're getting out of that line item. And that's the work ahead for the next year, not only 5 years, but now, this year. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the, yes?
First of all, let me, I'm Vanita Balani, I want to just commend you for having this presentation today. That's going a long way to quell any misinformation that's out there. There's a lot of information from multiple meetings put in here. Want to thank you for that. Okay, I think it goes a long way, and if you do find the public confused, just remember you know a lot more than we do, and this goes a long way. The main question I had was, I understand you got a $700,000 savings for the preschool. That's great. 250 students are being served by that, is that correct?
Yes.
And I don't know how many qualify for that. I heard a number somewhere around 600 from the public. I don't know if that's true or not.
How many qualify as any 3- and 4-year-old student in the district qualifies?
And do you have an idea of how many are not yet being served?
We know what's called the preschool universe. So a preschool universe, according to the state, is 90% of the sum of your K and first grade staff, numbers of students. So in our case, that would be approximately 750, 770 students in the state's version of a preschool universe.
But
when
we don't,
put out,
that's like
I can
numbers,
finish.
right?
I'll finish. When we put out the request for interested parties, Suzanne, we were a little over 600? Yes.
Oh, okay, so that's closer. So I also heard you say that you're going to be looking into what to do. So will you be planning for that 400 additional or some percentage of it? Because obviously some parents won't opt in for that.
Yeah, so how it works is this. So every November, we have to give an estimate, well, not an estimate, an actual number of how many kids we're going to serve the next year. So, for example, last year in November, before we even started the first year, we had to tell them how many we were going to have the second year. So we did some estimations of how many classrooms we would have, and we came up with 19. So we filled every classroom. We were pretty much on target. So we currently have 19 sections, and 15 kids in a section, plus special ed kids are not accounted for in that same way.
Okay, and how early do you go out to parents or to the community to?
So it's ongoing. We've been out to them already this year.
Okay, great.
So thank you.
And just one other question, because it relates to the budget. Any opportunity for additional savings for the increase in the number of kids that would join
What
the
happens
program?
is the state pays us per student. They have a formula. So if we up it by 50 kids, they will give us, and they agree, they will give us X number of dollars times 50. But there's not, we don't make any money. It's a wash. We can't take any of the preschool money and spend it anywhere else but on preschool.
Oh,
That's the law.
Understood.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation. If you don't mind, can you go to that health center slide, the number slide?
1 second.
Oh, sorry.
Just hit my ankle. Sorry.
Yeah, that's the one. I'd just like to understand a little more between the column total SPST cost and the total HC, which is a health center, I think, right?
The fourth column. The fourth column?
Yeah, the total SPST cost and the total health center.
Total HC is not health center, it's total health care.
Okay.
That column is representative of the starting number of 2020 at 27,189, moving over 2, multiplied by the 5.26.
Increase in the rates.
And the increase is not all, we didn't make those up.
It's
Those
from the
are-
state.
Those are directly from the state.
Yeah, I got it.
So if we would, in other words, if you did nothing and just stayed where we were,
And in
That would be what
2021,
it would
it
be.
came down by 4% in the state level.
it came down everywhere because of COVID.
Okay.
It's kind of like I said about the gas.
Yeah.
It's
No,
kind of saying.
let's not go into
Well,
details. Yeah, I understood.
I'd be comfortable just saying it again. So the idea is, if you look at that year, that was the year you used less gas.
Yeah. No, perfectly, I understood. No
Yeah.
questions on that. I'm just trying to understand this chart a little better.
Yep.
And the total cost, like if you see 2020, let's take 2023, 28 million. what does it comprise of? That,
Excellent.
if we had given that details, it would have
Yeah,
been very
I
nice.
am.
Because not everything is healthcare, right?
No, I'll give it to you right now.
Okay.
So it's actually on the screen. So the SBSD costs 2023 include, actually I'm going to go back and give you the one I showed you already. It includes the green. So in 2023 it only includes the pink. Okay, in 2023 you would have been paying the claims, the administrative fees with Aetna, which is a negotiated deal, and you're paying for your stop-loss insurance. When you open the health center, then you're paying all that cost, that 20, let me go to it, the 28, as we wrote on the slide, the 28 million includes the employee contributions that get summed of it, medical, prescription claims, it includes the stop-loss insurance, it includes all the health center costs completely, and still includes whatever you're paying your administrative fees with Aetna.
Perfect. I understood that. Only thing I wanted that amount split. That would have been perfect to do some analysis. At a high level, I mean, you cannot do any detailed analysis. I'm a finance guy, so I cannot do much analysis with this, except that you can say that based on that projected increase in the state, we can look at a 3 million difference or a reduction. But if you can provide, I would really appreciate that, or I'll try to Oprah it and get it. It's a
whichever you prefer.
Yeah. No, if you
Feel
can,
free to offer it away.
if you can give it, it's a 1 or 2 day affair.
Well,
If it's Oprah, I know it's going to be 2 week affair.
You can send me an email.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And yeah, that
Next.
is good.
Next
And,
one, please.
I have just one comments. That's it. I don't have any questions further because without those numbers, I can't do much analysis. And that includes the premium also, right? That you pay for the specialist.
There is no premium.
If they have to go to a specialist, what happens? Like they have to go to ortho?
We pay the claims.
Oh, okay. So there's no additional premium for
There's
the
no
specialist.
premiums.
Okay.
Those are all the costs.
Okay.
Yep.
So for example, if they go to ortho, it'll be like $300.
Say it again.
Like that.
If you go to where?
It's a ortho or a specialist.
Okay, you go to the hospital, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm roughly saying some numbers. It'll be $300 or $350. So the entire amount will be paid.
So Aetna has a negotiated agreement with an ER visit, right?
Oh, okay.
So with each hospital, when you go to the ER, you're paying a copay most likely, and then the agreement is based upon your service. The doctor will bill your insurer. Who's your insurance, Magesh?
United Healthcare. Sorry, I have to think. United Healthcare.
United.
Yeah.
So they have an agreement. Do you have certain doctors you have to go to?
Yeah, yeah.
So
no, I got it.
when
Same
you-
way it works, right? Same way it
So-
works.
so
That
when
is-
you go to
your
those
Aetna
doctors-
premium covers that, right?
Well, so when you go to those doctors,
Yeah.
there's an agreement on how much United is paying them
Perfect.
for each service, right? So we pay that agreement. So it's not a premium. Like if you pay a contribution to your premium, no one has a premium.
Okay.
So what it is, we pay the bill that Aetna had negotiated with that provider. That bill comes to us and we pay it.
Okay. Same way I do to my ortho and my physician. I do the same thing.
All right.
Okay, so perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a couple of comments. You said that state...
Magesh, I'm going to ask you to hold them so we can get someone else up here, and then you can come back and you
Okay.
can still ask again. You're not done for the
Okay,
night, okay?
Can I come back again?
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
Hello, and thank you for the really thorough discussion of the budget. I had a quick question. At previous budget meetings, it had been discussed that there were 11 positions, I think, that had been opened up that we didn't end up rehiring. That number, from what I saw tonight, increased to 15.
Yep.
What I wanted to see was, number one, do we have any projections on what that number might look like by the end of the fiscal year? And number two, a little bit more long-term, has there any projections been done on like what the peak number might be for that before we, go back to like hiring positions and try to dwindle away at that?
So the extra 4 positions came as a result of, you use projections, and you're not always 100%.
Yeah.
So in this case, we had a position that we didn't get, the students did not come. So when we had another opening, we were able to move a person to that opening instead of hiring for it. Some of the other positions happened as a result of someone might have retired or left, So when that happens, every time a position opens, we do another reassessment of the need. Is there another way to do it? That's the whole reallocating of the human resources. Right now, we're trying to get through. We had some unexpected new expenses associated with things that are out of our control. When that happens, you normally have a reserve. We're just not in that situation right now. So that's the first answer. The second answer is, while we are doing projections now, we are also going to work with our demographer to see if the impact of any of the new construction will alter the projections we've done. So yes, I have projections already for, the answer to your question is, I could answer that question. I'm not going to answer that question at this moment, but we do that.
Okay.
We actually have the way to look at that and make projections, but they're not 100% accurate, but we have to use something. We get closer to the budget in the end of April, and by then, we actually have to make the decision on those projections.
Okay, and then one quick follow-up for that. I know that at one of those previous meetings it had been mentioned, or I believe it had been mentioned, that those openings were not due to any firings. Were any of the new openings due to firings, or was it just, people leaving the district? And
Attrition.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You got it.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much. Is there any other comments before McGash?
Hi, Scott. Great presentation. Thank you. I'm not a candidate for anything, but I do have a couple of questions. The annual expenditure pie chart, a couple of thoughts on that. In isolation, 67, 68% of the expense going into comp and benefits. Can't say for sure what it means, other than if you've run some sort of a heuristic or benchmark with comparable school systems. Do you have any information? Second, I do see debt service, which means there's a P&L concept around it, notionally. I don't see depreciation, especially when you have high capital expense.
Well, you
Any
didn't
thoughts
see-
on
Can you say that again?
depreciation?
Oh, yes.
So where does depreciation
So-
sit? And I know it's not a P&L.
But I could answer that. It's okay.
Yep.
When you do the bond, like a mortgage, the bond comes with your payments for the entire length of the bond. So why we're not going to put it up here in a meeting like this? David would be able to call up his documents and show you when each of the debts are paid off and how much each debt payment is for the next X number of years.
Oh, I understand that. My question's slightly different. So if you bought $25 million worth of assets, some of it will be operating expense, some of it will be CapEx. It has to be depreciated on someone's books, unless the assets are mortgaged and they are actually...
So let me ask you this question. When you say it has to be depreciated, why does a company depreciate their purchases?
You have to do it for accounting compliance purposes. You are an auditable entity.
It's a different entity here. It's just a different entity.
Okay. All right.
Remember, we don't pay taxes, thank goodness.
Okay. Then a related question. Rollover increase. It's a term that's not an accounting standard. May be confused with what I would call deficit financing or deficit in budget. As an entity, you have only two ways of dealing with it. Either you capitalize, which means you sell your stock, you cannot, or you raise capital. Or if you're a government, you print more bills. You're not a government either. Where does that go? How is that managed financially and accounting-wise?
Yeah, so that's our problem, right? Is we don't have the way that other organizations can come up with a deficit. We function, if you've seen any of my presentations on the deficit model, we have a deficit model budgeting system here. Every year, we are running a budget with less monies to do what we did the year before because of a 2% cap. The state has taken away our opportunity to do what you would tell us to do, which is you have to cover that gap. How are you going to do it? The ways that I put up in this presentation are our avenues of doing it. You either spend less. You can't really raise enough money in new revenue with the traditional ways, right? We can't charge enough money on anything we do to ever come up with the kind of millions we're talking about. I'm interested in hearing from the gentleman with the revenue idea, always open to that. But for the most part, we optimize the way we've described today.
So your income and expense have to balance out.
Has
eventually.
to balance at zero.
And there's only so much you can do on income because you cannot raise taxes infinitely, and you cannot control your expenses. theoretically speaking.
You can control some element of your
Yeah, yeah,
expenses,
yeah,
but not fully. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
We don't get to raise the price of Coke. Thank you.
Anybody else
Anybody
before?
else? Magesh, come on down.
I mean, this won't be long, it's just statements. You said that the state said that SPSD should generate that whatever is a gap or 7 million or something like that, right?
So what I mean is the state's formula, that formula factors three numbers.
Right.
It factors your adequacy number, which us is minus 7.2 million. It prints out a number that the state should pay in state aid, and it prints out the third number, which is local fair share, which is their answer to how much the local town should pay to operate your school system. That formula includes a whole host of variables they throw into the formula, such as the concrete ones, right, are the number of kids in your school. That's easy. This formula that involves valuation of your town, the income of your town, the number of special education students, the number of students who don't speak English as a first language, the number of students who are on free and reduced lunch, and a whole host of other questions get thrown into their formula. Spits out three numbers, and only three numbers that matter. What they've said is because of how much money your town has, their formula says they should only pay X amount of money, the town should pay Y amount of money, and if you have both of those numbers, your adequacy will be at 0. The problem is, separate from the formula, there's a 2% cap on the tax levy max by a school district. Meaning, to the question the gentleman, is still here? Did I lose? Oh, there he is. That he asked about the gap. That gap, before they created a 2% cap, that gap was allowed to be closed by raising the taxes. That is no longer at the ability of a Board of Education to decide. So the result of what you're asking is the state makes those three numbers. We have no contribution to those numbers. When they say you should be paying more, their formula says they should be paying less. They're not looking at the adequacy number at all, which is our fight. Our fight is, how can you have a formula that says a district is not spending enough by millions of dollars, and the same formula tells you to take money from that district? That doesn't make any sense to us, probably to anybody.
Yeah, maybe I'll make it a little clear. What I meant is they said that you need to raise some additional money, say 7 or 8 million from your township, but you cannot raise that 2% also, right? So that is what they're trying to say. Is there some kind of official confirmation from them, like a letter or something that I'm sure you might be following it up with them, we as residents, because that's absurd. If somebody says you have to have 7 million, but you also cannot raise certain things, or I also won't give. we would also like to take it up with them.
The letter they provide to us
Right.
is a state aid official document that gets sent to us, and that number is the official number. The law is the 2% cap. The only avenue a district has is to do one of two things. They could go to what's called a second question, in which case when you vote in November, this district can't do it until next November. The district can say, we want you to spend more money, and then we have to tell you exactly what you're spending it on. So let's just say the district said we want a pool. That's like an example of what people do. They usually build something when they do this. So if the town said, yes, you can get a pool, and for $5 million, then all we'd be doing is having to spend $5 million on a pool. It wouldn't help us solve this problem of the gap. The other part of that, which is important to know, if you ask for it and the town says no at the booth, you're not legally allowed to do it. Meaning,
Kindergarten is a great example. Kindergarten is not required to be full day. The district could say to the town, now, we're not saying this, so no one get nervous, that we don't want to do full-day kindergarten. We want to only do half-day. That's all we can afford. If you want full-day, here's how much it's going to cost, and we're going to put it on the ballot. If the town votes yes, then you can never take full-day kindergarten away ever again. If the town votes no, you cannot have full-day kindergarten until the town votes yes.
Okay.
The other way, one more way.
Oh, sorry.
I'm
Okay.
going slow. The other way is you move the entire election process and the voting process, this is complicated, back to April.
Used to be.
At that point, there's lots of things that go on. It's not so easy. I'm not going to get into all the details. But then the district, the board, can ask the voters to vote for higher than 2%. Those are the two options those are the two options. The only other third option is to beg the state to borrow money. If they agree, they then become your fiscal monitors.
Okay, got it, yeah. The other point you mentioned is, you said per student, we are supposed to get $509 for the mandated busing.
Yes.
And we are getting only $400
Yes.
for the last 5 years or more. So that's like $500,000, right? We are missing that money. Why are we not getting it from the state? They're
Nobody
supposed to
is.
give, right?
They have a formula that they just don't use. Nobody gets it.
No school district gets it?
I think, Magesh, what you're hoping for is I'm going to give you logical answers, but if they involve the state, they're not going to make any sense. So there's a formula. We just met with the Assistant Commissioner of Education last week. Suzanne, myself, David. We just met with the Assistant Commissioner of Education. We begged for money, and they gave us $142,000 more for preschool.
No, I'm not going to those. I'm asking specifically this.
It's the same question.
What is supposed to come and what we have got?
Let me explain.
There is a $500,000 gap.
Let me explain. So they just told us that you should be getting $509 per student. So we went back and we looked at our state aid numbers, and we've been getting the same $2.1 million. Doesn't matter how many kids are being bused,
Oh.
how many kids go to the school, no change, no thought, nothing.
Okay, okay. Yeah, that's it. And the enrollment numbers, I think you will be doing some kind of analysis why the numbers are coming down. And if students are leaving the school, I hope you are doing some kind of exit interview to understand why they're leaving the school district to private schools and things like that.
Our private school numbers are not increased.
Okay,
Our charter school numbers have barely increased compared to surrounding districts. There are districts that have budgets for charter school that are in the close to $10 million. Ours remains under $1 million.
okay.
So we're not seeing an increase. So when you ask the question, you ask that question opposing there was truth to the question. There wasn't. It was a question, fair enough, but the question was posed in a way that suggested it was true. Do you have any evidence that that is true?
Yep.
No, neither do I, because nothing that we have suggests that any of the problem we're facing. That's why we hired a demographer, someone who's actually an expert that does this for a living, and asked them, what is going on? What's going on in the state of New Jersey is a declining enrollment in the state of New Jersey. What's going on in South Brunswick is a positive thing for South Brunswick. It means people like it here. Like when people don't leave, that's not a bad thing. It has a weird effect on schools, but it's nice to think about, right? That people stay and they enjoy and they live with the people that they love and care for. I mean, that's a cool thing. It's not so good for us at this moment. We like some more kids. But at the same time, be careful what you ask for, because if I get more kids and they keep taking money away, we got a problem.
Okay. Oh, with more enrollment, I assume more money will come based on the formula, S2 formula. Anyway, okay, that's a different topic.
Let's go with one more, Magesh, and then we're going to call it a night.
Yeah, that's it. I just want to finish off with this
For the
one.
board, sure.
Like you said, social media, some information is wrong. I just want to correct it, saying that was, I don't know who else posted there. I posted 13 million over 5 years, which is right. In fact, it is, to be exact, it is 13.5 million.
No, you didn't.
2.6 million operating cost per year,
Yesterday at the
right?
committee.
Into 5 is 13, plus your 2.5 capex. So it is actually 15.5 million over 5 years. So that is the number I have put. Is that
So
wrong?
I have an idea.
Right.
Here's a good idea. Ready?
Yep.
Now that you know
Yep.
that the money is an offset by the reduction in claims, why don't you go back on the same Facebook posts and post that while there's an outlay, why don't you say exactly the truth?
No, you give me all those details. I have asked all
But
the
here,
split,
you
right?
can
I
do
need
this.
those details.
You could go right on Facebook and say this.
Hmm.
There is a $2.5 million upfront cost, and you can say it was out of the capital reserve account. You could say that that money could not be spent on student matters.
Okay, agreed.
And then you could say, there's an annual cost of $2.5 million, which is then offset by a reduction in claims, ultimately saving the district money. There you go. And then we're good to go.
No, no,
Thank you so much.
I cannot do that unless I get all those
that's okay.
numbers.
That's okay.
The fact is, it is
That's
2.6.
okay. We don't have to
OPEX
argue.
cost.
We don't have
Yeah,
to argue.
That's fine.
Thanks so much,
Thanks
Mikesh.
anyway for
And
the
you're gonna give it
details.
back to the board?
And
I'll give it
thanks
back
to Lisa for letting us in, because my estimate was the way the questions were going, it will be 10:30. Thank you for that.
Thank you. We
you
have
very much.
additional questions, so if you would like to stay to hear the board members, because there's been comments also made that board members
Let's
don't
just
ask
keep going.
questions.
Just keep going.
Let's go ahead and do that. Smitha, please.
Could you please go back to the, okay, we are already in the pie chart. Could you please explain what the 1% insurance is?
What, the which one?
Insurance, 1% of insurance.
So other than health insurance, there's also insurances for, David?
Workers' compensation, all of the insurances to make sure kids are safe, and if anybody gets hurt, we take care of them.
Stop loss?
No, stop loss is in your health,
the healthcare.
is the
Okay.
healthcare.
So all non-healthcare insurance.
Student
So like if you think of
student
your house,
accident.
Smitha, you have health insurance.
Yeah.
Then you have car insurance, you have homeowners insurance.
Yeah.
All those are the 1%.
I just want to cover the bases. I don't want something to come up on the social media again.
It will.
It will.
It will.
But we have it on the video now, so.
Yes, we do.
And the other question, thing is, I had a comment. We were talking about adequacy. So West Windsor, Plainsboro comes up a lot. Our adequacy is below, right? We are below adequacy,
Where according to the state's formula,
according to state's
we're
formula.
down, where our adequacy budget for this year is, they're saying we should be spending 7.2 million more dollars than we have.
Than we have, right? Compared to West Windsor, Plainsboro, which is above adequacy.
I don't know if that's.
I looked up the
If you've looked, I don't
numbers.
know West Windsor's situation.
No, I just wanted to compare it. It's more of a comment. West Windsor, Plainsboro is above adequacy, and they got $1.1+ million additionally, and we are below adequacy, but we still got cut.
That's been our fight for 4 years right now,
So
the exact fight.
The story, the West Windsor, Plainsboro has become the poster child. So we are always compared to West Windsor, Plainsboro. So I just wanted to throw out that number.
But that's been happening, just so you know, Smitha, so when I first started teaching here in 1992, same thing then. But just so you know, one number that goes a long way when you compare apples to apples, you have to compare apples to apples.
Yeah.
You can't compare different things. So the biggest number that impacts student performance, does anybody know what it is? Money.
Of course, teachers.
Not how much money the district has, how much money the parent makes.
Oh, that question. That's true.
West Windsor, and this is national, this is not,
right.
this is not Scott's version.
Right,
This
yeah,
is
right,
not,
right.
this is national norms
Right.
are done by affluence.
Yeah.
A district, where you'd be scared is if a district had very high wealth and very low performance.
Yeah.
That would be very different.
Anomaly.
That would be an anomaly.
Yeah.
So what you should look at, as educators, what we should look at are districts that do not have the wealth,
Yeah.
but somehow have the performance.
Right.
Then it's what's going on in that district, because that's interesting. So when we look at wealth as South Brunswick compared to two districts we get compared to, I would say, East Brunswick, West Windsor, Princeton,
Yeah.
Monroe. Let's go with those four. So Princeton's wealth, in comparison to South Brunswick's, not really much of a comparison at the end of the day. And West Windsor's wealth, significantly higher than South Brunswick's. With that said, you know if you're going to buy your house in South Brunswick or the same exact house in West Windsor, which one's more money?
Wow, West Windsor, obviously.
And the taxes in West Windsor, Plainsboro, having lived there for 10 years, the taxes are not in the same realm. If you're paying $12,000 for your taxes here, and you're in that house in West Windsor, could be closer to $20,000. So while it's fun to say, I am interested in comparing ourselves to Milburn, to Ridgewood, to West Windsor. I want to compete with them. But here's the thing. If there was a stat that is purely objective, not any one of the zillion different ratings out there, which are all nonsense, all of them. Even the ones that tell us we're great, those are just as much as nonsense as tell us we're not great. The number that is objective, the only number I could think of that's objective, that's nationally normed, is the SAT.
Yeah.
The only other number to look at is AP scores. When you look at AP scores, you should be looking at two numbers: pass rate and participation rate. It's easy to get a high pass rate with a low participation rate. Just give me the brain surgeons, and I'll make sure they all get 5s. What you want is you want more kids getting passing scores. So if you look at those two metrics objectively and nothing else, you'd at least be able to see where your district stands. The problem is none of that is reported. We can't access that information. I'd have to call every school and hope they give me the information and hope they give me the accurate information.
Right.
That's why we are not able to do that and give you an actual objective comparison of districts.
Okay.
But I could talk about this for longer if you like.
No.
I don't.
No.
Yeah.
No.
It's my kind of guy.
Missing my programs.
Also,
Killing me.
sorry. Just
Mark's going to the health center tomorrow morning to start off the day. Off for coffee.
Also, to remind everybody, the air filters, during COVID time, we did not have to replace the air filters in school. And there was a shortage outside.
You know,
but
it's
we
so
were
funny. You know, we didn't even talk about that. But the year that everyone had to buy the air filters, our ESIP project had already installed them.
Yeah.
So that was a little extra bonus.
Yeah, so I mean,
Maybe
it's
that's
a good
why they're
thing
not giving us
for the
any
public to know. We did not have to scramble for air filters when there was none on the markets during COVID. It was because
Correct.
of the ESIP.
That's really a good point. That very good.
And and also the healthcare, the health center. Will the specialized services be rationalized as as the pattern emerges as to looking
I think
at all the
so.
beds?
Like you saw, like 7 acupuncture, right? So if there's a point where that's no longer cost effective, then you might look at something else. But what they look at is they look at what it would cost you to do the service outside versus what does it cost to do the service inside. And you have to also give things time. We're open for 5 minutes, right? The whole thing is open for 5 minutes at this point. You know, these things need to take time to fully digest.
yeah.
So I don't think we would jump to any conclusion at this moment, but part of the process is to do exactly that. You want to offer the services that are most effective for the people who are using the service.
Right.
And you don't want to just have extra funds going out. That doesn't help anybody, especially if no one's using it. Like having an acupuncturist sit there for 2 days a week for one person to come for 1 hour is not good use of anyone's funding.
Right. So the point is, in the long run, there will be more rationalization, and there probably we see a lot of potential for more savings. Can you please go back to the timeline on the health center?
I'm guaranteeing I'm going the wrong way. Oh, I'm not. Yes.
This one, yeah. Would you remember who all voted? All the board members who all voted on the health center? Would you remember?
That was in what year? That was 2021, right?
June 21, I guess.
I think to make sure we're accurate on that, I think I would have to have David check the minutes.
think it was June 21.
It doesn't matter who was on the board. I'm not comfortable without looking at the minutes. I think I know, but I'd have to look at the minutes.
Okay.
Maybe even watch the video and see.
But we all voted.
Yeah.
Well, voting is one thing, yeses, nos, and abstentions.
Right.
But at this point, I'd have to go back and make sure. I wouldn't want to answer one way and.
Sure.
I'd be glad to answer if I was 100% positive right now and I had it in front of me.
I'm 100% positive.
If you want to look, Dave, if you want to see.
They all voted.
Second meeting in June.
It was all in favor. All in favor.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm good.
You good?
Okay.
Ms. Karthik?
Julie has only one question.
Oh,
and I
sure,
have
Julie.
4, so I'll give her a
Absolutely.
chance
Thank
to
you
go
for
first.
passing it over.
Yeah, just on the pie chart, the tuitions, is that for out-of-district tuition? that
So
we-
our tuitions run from charter placements, but most of it is special education.
It is,
Yeah.
for out-of-placement,
That's really the
Yeah.
bulk of our tuition.
okay.
Yeah.
And the other thought, in the budget, I didn't notice any reference to investments that we might have as a district. Is that a line item in your pie chart?
So how the investments work, I'm going to try, and then David's going to tell me why I just answered this question really badly.
Okay.
So I'm going to give it a go, though, because I'm interested if I can actually answer it.
Okay.
So we have money sitting in our accounts that are going to be spent. They're going to be spent, right? We know they're going to be spent.
Are they in investment accounts?
They're in investment accounts.
Okay.
And actually, that should be one of our really good newses, right? Because interest rates are crazy. So David works with our investment banking firm on this exact issue. And all the money that sits in account and gets additional expenditures. That money then floats back into the operations, which helps us offset some of the problems we face. David, how'd I do? All right.
So we have about $13 or $14 million that are in reserve accounts that are earmarked for capital projects, for maintenance. If the district is not doing anything with those funds, because we're kind of on hold with all of our projects because of our current budget situation, those funds are not permitted to be spent on anything else other than those earmarked items. So therefore, NJ ARM, our asset management company, will be able to take those funds and invest them in government-approved investments, and we reap some of the rewards off those accounts.
Okay.
Good question, Julie, thank you.
Okay.
All right, TP, you get 3.
I'm going last, thank you.
Oh, I go last.
Oh, you're going last? Okay, all right, so then I'll make this quick.
Wait, so we still have Deepa and Lisa?
Yeah.
Do you guys
I don't
bring
have
pillows?
many. No, it's important that we
All
don't
right,
have
yeah.
questions.
All right. So, Scott, I want to go back to the slide. You don't have to flash it up on the screen, but I know that you spoke about the per student transportation cost that the state has to reimburse us for, which was in the range of $504 or $509, and we were getting $400 per student, which means that we are already facing a deficit in that line item, right? Because we are bridging that gap.
Well,
So-
we don't budget more than the 2.1 million, though. So it isn't that we're expecting 509. We're only expecting 400.
And that is fine, because that's what your experience is. But however, the state is supposed to give us that money. So theoretically, we are looking at a deficit in that particular line item.
Theoretically, we're looking at $14 million in deficit potentially.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, on
So,
this particular line item.
on that particular line item, if you want to call it a deficit, then I'm not going to argue with you.
Yeah, I mean.
Add it to the deficit list.
Yeah, it is,
We'll
it is
take
a deficit. However, what was interesting to note was that this, reimbursement, I'm going to call it, is not applicable to courtesy routes. Is that correct?
100% does not applicable. So if we do a courtesy bus, there's no expectation of aid, and we will not get any aid. It does not go onto the system. The state never even sees that those kids are getting a bus.
So, I would be interested to see that, because we are absorbing that cost completely.
Yes.
For which we are not getting any.
We always have,
We
correct.
will never be reimbursed for it.
Never get reimbursement
Even
for
a single dollar. So I think that's important for the community to know about this particular piece, right? The second thing I had a question was the triples that we went to last year. The triples which.
Yes.
We had the transportation committee that was established for it, and then we went through a lot of. I was not on it because it happened before my time on the board, but I know there were a lot of discussions around it.
And when we ultimately landed up on triples, and there was a lot of chatter in the community about it as well, this was expected to yield savings for us, right? I know on this particular presentation we did not have that, and as we go through the years, we will see the trend in savings. So let's keep an eye out for that, for the savings that are resulted out of the triples that we are trying.
We did that. We know that savings.
You mean on an ongoing basis?
On an ongoing basis.
Well, the ongoing basis is you just simply look at how many buses you need, how many buses you would have need, multiplied by the increase in the expense of the bus. It's a relatively established savings already. The savings year over year would be, let's say that you were using 30 buses, now you're using 20 buses. Let's say the 10 buses you saved were $100,000 a piece, it's $1 million. If the annual increase of the busing is 5%, that's another 50,000. So you'd be saying you're saving 50,000. But to budget that way would be very problematic.
I'm not asking for us to budget that way, I'm just asking us to sort of display that number so that we know that this action has resulted in actual savings to the
It's a
community.
perennial savings.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the last thing, two more small, it's not a question, but really a sort of a comment. We also spoke about, we have now, as we move forward along this journey, it sounds like we are working with so many constraints, the 2% cap and, and the lovely S2 formula that we have to work with. So at some point, we already have pay to play in existence. And this is only going to likely to sort of be expanded to other programs if we continue to face this huge gap that we are looking at, right? So that is something for us to be cognizant about, because we will now end up sort of, we are looking at a scenario where we might end up charging for services that we were not earlier charging for.
So there's, just so you know, there's only certain things we could charge for. You couldn't charge for anything in T&E, meaning thorough and efficient education. You couldn't charge for that because the Constitution says that a student is entitled to a free and appropriate public education of a thorough and efficient education. So, in other words, you couldn't say, well, if you want to take math, we're going to charge you.
Do it.
But you could charge, they used to charge for taking an AP class, for example.
$25.
They would charge for that. You could charge for things that you're allowed to charge for, but it isn't just, you can't wholesale charge and make it a private school setting.
Agreed. So I think that's something that we will now have to, as we go ahead, we have to start looking at that. Because if you want to maintain certain programs that we are allowed to charge for, then I think that's sort of the way to go forward if we still want to continue those services.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Lisa, you had something to say?
No, I'll wait till you're
Okay.
done.
And the last thing was, I think you already touched upon this when you were speaking to the earlier speaker. This is the out of cycle, the referendum cycle and us passing our budget, right, and approving the budget. I think it's very important that the community understands what it means for us to be out of sync. Because that took me an entire meeting where Dave and you explaining in our finance committee.
You mean going to an April vote?
I'm sorry?
You mean moving into an April vote?
Yes. Yes, and why that puts the Board of Education in a bind, when we're trying to approve a budget and we're not able to go to a referendum prior to approving the budget. So I think it's very important for the community at some point to understand.
The reality is, if you are approving that number in April, that is prior to adopting a budget.
Right.
So the reason it used to be in April, why it's kind of weird that it's not in April anymore, to be honest, is you're adopting a budget for way away, where if it was in April, and let's say we said we're going to go for 4%, you don't finish your budget until you get an answer to that. So on that day in April, you'll know you'll know your whole budget.
Yep.
You won't have to wait until the next year when you're already, April, I'll be honest, April always made more sense than November, but I'm not suggesting we move it to April. So I think David might jump off a building if I tried to do that, but sensibly for how a budget operates in a school setting, which is a July 1 to June 30 number, April is not weird to me.
Lisa, it's over. I think you're the last one.
Thank you. Okay, so I just have a couple little things. The ESIP status of the payments, when does it end?
Status of
Yeah, when
payments?
do we stop paying ESIP?
When's the bond over?
The bond, when does the bond come to full?
you're gonna go out till 33.
Okay, so 20, so we're looking at 2033.
Yeah, it's a 20
Okay, I
it
just
was a
wanted to get it.
20-year It was a 20-year
20-year bond, okay. I just wanted to make sure. Transportation for charter schools, that increased, did it not, the cost of transportation for charter schools?
I'm sorry?
The transportation cost for charter schools, for us to transport children
Yes.
to a charter school, that we cannot touch, correct?
No, we are legally obligated to bus to a charter school if it's within 20 miles.
Right, and how
of the
much does
home.
that cost us per 1,000? Is it-
Dave, I don't know the answer to that.
Off the top of my head, I'd have to total
Okay,
up
that's
all of
fine,
those
but I know that that has
transportation
not been
costs.
cut. We can't
not
touch.
allowed to cut that.
We're not
We have
allowed to
to.
touch that
No.
amount of money, okay. I just wanted to confirm that. The transition center, you mentioned that we're gonna start trying to bring in other districts to utilize the transition center. Is there any idea yet, it may be too early, how we're gonna advertise to get other districts to use, and if we do we have any idea of
We've already
cost?
started,
Okay.
and it's done through Raphael's group, and I'm sure supervisors. I would inform all of our superintendents. Suzanne and Evelyn might inform the assistant superintendents. Kim might inform them. David would inform the business administrators. They have flyers. They've created ways, but mostly it happens at Raphael's world. So Raphael he meets with all of the other Raphaels.
That's what, okay.
And that's where they discuss who has programs. So for example, if we have a student that needs X program, before we look necessarily to a private school, is there a public version that would be great for a kid? To keep a kid in a public setting would be our first choice. Not financial reasons, but just so they have a public setting.
Right. That was my concern about when I noticed the $1.2 million efficiencies in place for special ed. I wanted to make sure the kids were not impacted, and it sounds like they're not. But it's because of keeping the kids in district. We're not paying for them to go out of district.
I mean, we
Do
still
I have that
we still
correct?
pay for plenty of kids to go out of district.
Right.
That was a reduction, not a removal of a line.
Right.
There's plenty of money going to out of district placements.
But there was a reduction.
Well, there's a reduction because we're trying some new things. Those
Okay.
kids, for example, get to stay here.
Right.
The ERI program at the elementary school is keeping kids in district. And,
Okay.
stuff like that. So we do a bunch of things again, it's an optimization.
Right. Okay. Secondly, I just wanted to make a statement that you had mentioned earlier, that we had met with Long Branch. We went to go see the Long Branch facility. I just want to make a statement about Toms River. Spoken with the Toms River Board of Ed representative, and the Toms River Board of Ed has the health center in place for 12 years. I want people to know that. It's been in place for 12 years. And on average, they have about a 4.8% cost for their claims versus, I think, what was ours? I forgot what it was.
We don't have any
But it's
data like they
under.
have yet. They're doing it 12 years. We're doing it like 7 months.
Yeah, 7 months. So I just want people to know that they've been in place now for 12 years in Toms River, and it's working very, very well. The other thing is regarding the health center. We had talked about our goals, the board goals, and one of the things that we had mentioned is to get some type of an update on an biannual, a quarterly, whatever the district feels is sufficient in terms of those numbers that we just saw. So we would like to continue to see that type of an update. Either, I don't know if you can do monthly, but maybe quarterly.
We get
But I'll
the
leave that
monthly.
up to the administration.
We actually get that list monthly.
Great. Okay, so we could start doing that maybe, however often you believe. The other thing that I wanted to mention was Crossroads North. I mean, this was a surprise that we got the bridge.
I like to keep something in my
So
pocket.
thank you. I mean, I talk to Scott like once or twice a day. Sometimes I want to just.
I
like-
love when it's only once or twice a day. What do you mean?
And that was a big surprise, so thank you. Please extend our thanks to Raphael for doing that. And I do have an idea for revenue. If Raphael
now?
would approve it, is for the children to do the laundry for hire. I would be more than happy to pay those children to do laundry. I mean, that'd be a great idea, dry cleaning, laundry services.
How much would you pay?
I don't know, I'd pay. So
$100 a
I
load?
I do want to say, that the center is phenomenal. I don't know if you will ever have an opportunity to open it for the public, for them to see it, but if there's a way for the public to see what these children do and how they work, I think it would be an ideal setting. So, thank you. Any other questions? No, very good. Then I'm going to close this portion of the public comments for the budget. Thank you very much, Mr. Fetter, and thank you to Raphael as well.
I move to recess for 5 minutes.
Oh, can we have a motion?
I'm seconding.
We have a restroom situation.
Yeah.
Do you want to oh,
Yes, please.
well, one second. Do you have a public comment outside of the budget? Okay, you need to wait 1 second. We'll get there, I promise you.
A while, let him know.
Yeah, it's probably going to be 10 minutes.
No, it's not.
No.
We have to consent agenda.
No, I know, that's what I'm saying. It'll probably be about 10 minutes, won't be very long. Do you want to, all right,
Yeah,
we have
I
a
move to
motion,
recess.
we have a motion on the table to recess for 5 minutes. I would like to make that tighter. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're gonna 5 minutes for restroom break.
So your fiance is over here.
Reconvening.
He's asking how we can pay more taxes.
Reconvening the meeting. Oh, look at all of you. You stay. Motion to reconvene. Motion, Mr. Mitchell, second.
Second.
Dr. Raj, all in favor? Aye. Very good. We shall reconvene. Look at that, Robert's rules, man. I want a public comment. All right. The next order is to hear the reports of the committees and the board liaisons. We will start with the Education Committee report and any update.
I'll have it next, during our next meeting.
Very good. We will have the Education report next meeting. Business Operations, will the Business Operations report?
No, we canceled our meeting because we covered everything the meeting before.
Very good. Thank you for the Business Operations update. Will the Finance Committee report? Mr. Mitchell?
Very quickly, thank you, Madam President. We met on the 26th of September. In attendance was myself, Mr. Nathanson, Dr. Raj, Mrs. Rogers as president, and Mr. Pulowski and our superintendent, Mr. Fetter. Topics we went over, stabilization aid, as you heard earlier, reviewed the latest application for stabilization aid and the impact on the business office. It was noted that the extensive amount of information that was required for the application, much of what the Department of Education has already in its possession. Then we reviewed the agenda for the district meeting with Senator Zwicker regarding S2 and the current funding formula. Also reviewed the meeting with Carrie Booker, the Assistant Commissioner of Early Education. The meeting occurred to approve preschool funding for transportation. We requested to carry over $500,000 and were approved for $142,000 as a state per pupil rate of $509, which you heard earlier. And finally, the Fund 11 balances by function. We reviewed the operating account, Fund 11, fund balances and encumbrances for the remainder of the year, discussed the budgeting process for the upcoming year, and concerns regarding our current budget. That completes my report.
Very good. Please post the report. Thank you so much. Will the Policy Committee report, Ms. Carpet?
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. The Policy Committee met today evening. I'll have a report for it on our next board meeting.
Very good. Thank you so much. Any liaison reports? Ms. Hernandez?
Last week, I had the privilege of attending Brunswick Acres Back to School Night. It was awesome. They did it a little differently. They started out with having a video in each classroom, which I didn't think I was gonna like, and it was great with the principal and the assistant principal, but they had set the whole gym up with all their specialists. So it was kind of like a specialist fair, and it was awesome. And the place was packed out. It was packed. And it was funny because in the beginning, like, oh, I hope we get people. It's like, by the end, it was like, okay, we got so many people. So they did a great job. So kudos to Brunswick Acres, principal, vice principal, and their staff. Great job. And then with the Commission on Women, their annual domestic violence walk is this Sunday. Please be there. It is going to be at the Senior Center on 522 from 1 to 3 this Sunday. And that's it.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Nathanson?
Yeah, I was able to attend Constable. And it's always interesting. I've been the Constable rep since almost day one, so I've gone through a lot of different principals, including that young lady on the end of the, she was only 10 back then, but you know, so it was, I got a tour from VC, and they were basically started right away. I poked my head into their preschool. They have 3 preschool classes there. And she actually showed me something that's interesting because, you know, on operations, we approved some of the new phone systems, and they now have the ability, she has the ability to go to any classroom, use the phone in the classroom, and make a general announcement in the entire building. So in case of emergencies, it comes in handy. So no matter where she is, she can always make an announcement. So I thought that was a interesting feature. And that's it.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Nathanson. Anyone on the left here? Oh, I am so sorry, Mr.
It's okay, I'm gonna be quick.
Barry
Don't
jumped
worry.
you.
Don't worry about that. But, you know, I was able to go along with Mr. Nathanson to support Dayton Preschool's back-to-school night. Principal Plummer was an excellent hostess, and she showed us around, introduced us to a couple of our employees, and showed us, explained how the preschool functions on a daily basis, and the fact that she's actually between two schools. So she's not at Dayton 5 days a week. She's sometimes half day, sometimes she spends a day. It depends on the need. So we were very impressed and pleased, and thank you so much for the opportunity to visit and to share with them. And that's my report.
Thank you. Thank you so much. In here, Dr. Raj?
Cambridge also had its back-to-school night last week, and it was very well received, well attended, and Mrs. Pemberton and her team did a very good job. Kudos to them. That's it.
Very good. Anyone else? Any update? No? Very good. Thank you. I'll close that portion of the meeting. The next is public comments on agenda items only. We do have 2 public comments. So, the Board of Education recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters of community interest. Complete copies of the rules, Policy 0167, that govern this portion of the meeting are available to the public at the back of the room, online, or you can obtain an advanced copy by contacting the board office during regular business hours. We do reserve the right to limit each speaker to no more than 3 minutes. Mr. Polowski will indicate when you have 15 seconds remaining. It is our plan to listen to each member of the public. We will note all questions and comments made. Once all questions and comments from all members of the public are made, the Board of Education will respond, if necessary, to questions or comments in the most timely and efficient manner available. Please consider not repeating questions or comments made by other members of the public. When recognized, please approach the podium, state your name, your place of residence, and/or your group affiliation. As well, please complete the sign-in sheet, which we just started tonight, with the requested information. Please print legibly, no signatures, or we may be unable to document your name for the record. The first public comment is for consent agenda items only. There will be a second opportunity for the public to comment on any matter. Mr. Pawlowski, do we have anybody that's pre-registered?
No, we do not.
No. Is there anybody in the audience that would make a comment on agenda items only? No? Very good. We will close this portion of the public comments. Next order of business is old business. Seeing none, we shall move on to new business. Next order of business is new business. Seeing none, we shall move on. Next order of business is the consent agenda review by Mr. Pawlowski. Please go through the consent agenda.
Our consent agenda this evening is pretty concise, pretty brief. We have accepting some funds for Chapter 192, 193. We're approving a transportation contract, accepting a donation from Nathan Levy for a value of $4,480 for books that will be distributed throughout the schools. A professional development contract for a consultant. We're disposing some outdated textbooks, and we have our travel expenses listed. We also have some field trips, a harassment, intimidation, bullying report. We're approving a statement of assurance regarding use of paraprofessional staff, and we're also approving our out-of-district tuition adjustments, and attached is our personnel. And that's your consent agenda.
Very good. May I have a motion for consent agenda?
I have one.
Oh, yes, I'm so sorry. You have a question?
So, Scott, please explain who Nathan Levy is, because I don't know if it didn't explain it in the agenda.
Didn't explain who he is in the agenda?
Right.
Nathan's a former principal in the district. I think he retired around 2001, 2 maybe. He was principal of Monmouth Junction School for like about, I think, 100 and 200 years.
Thank you.
Yep.
Only about 200.
About 200.
Any other questions? Ms.
If he's
Karthik?
watching, he would know I would say that.
Ms. Karthik has a question.
Yeah, Mr. Podolsky, on the consent agenda for the backup, on page number 9, we have a line item that is Takes Time LLC, and there are a couple of, I think, bills that we're approving. I just wanted you to sort of provide some clarity on what those bills were. It does say for special ed, but just if you can just throw some light on that.
On page 9, we have Takes Time. They're a contracted vendor. They provide transportation services for our special ed population. These routes would have been board approved prior to us cutting a purchase order. So they're standard special education trips for students throughout the township.
Okay, so their transportation cost, that is a transportation, okay.
Transportation costs.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Ms. Karthik?
I'm good,
No.
thank you.
Anybody else? Very good. We will move to a motion. May I have a motion for consent agenda approval? Mr. Nathanson moved, Mr. Mitchell second. Roll call, Mr. Pulowski.
Ms. Julie Hernandez?
Ferrara.
Huh?
Ferrara.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
It's too late.
It's getting late. And I'm
Julie
wearing my new
Hernandez.
glasses.
They're your new glasses too? Oh my God.
Is that got us two?
God, we are in trouble. No.
Mr. and Mrs. Everybody? No. Mrs. Julie Ferrara?
Accept.
Mrs. Laura Hernandez?
Yes.
Mrs. Deepa Karthik? Ms. Alicia Khan?
Yes.
Mr. Raja Krishnan is absent. Mr. Mike Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. Barry Nathanson?
I'm going to vote yes, but I just have to point out something. You're voting also for 2 retirements tonight, one for Valerie Granke, who's been at the high school and various other schools for 36 years, and Diane Heyer, who's retiring after 25 years. So I want to congratulate both of them, and my vote is yes.
Along with all the others.
Dr. Smita Raj?
Yes.
Mrs. Lisa Rogers?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, sir. Moving on, next agenda item is public comment, second opportunity for the public on any topic. This is the second opportunity for the public to comment on any matter. You are reminded that the board recognizes the value of comments on educational issues and that you are limited to 3 minutes. Again, at the podium, state your name and announce the place of residence and/or your group affiliation. Again, please complete the sign-in sheet legibly. Do we have any members who've pre-registered for the second public comment?
Nope, we do not.
Are there any audience members who wish to make one? Yes, sir. There should be, yep. Is there a pen up there?
No.
Uh-oh. Here, can-
I took that pen.
Oh, you took that pen. That's why there's no pen. Does somebody have a pen? Here we go. Just your first name, last name, and your street. We're getting a little giddy here. We're getting a little giddy. All right. Maybe we could do it at the front. I don't know. We gotta figure something. Maybe a little table. Can we put a little table? Okay. Miss Julie Hernandez. Who is that?
Hey.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name is Narayanan. I live in Monmouth Junction. So whenever there is a school, NJ, SLA, or any report, I at least compare my daughter's score with the school, with the state average. So recently, I have never seen a score where our school average is less than state average. So recently when I saw a 9th grade English ELA score report, our school average is much less than the state average. Is anybody looks into something like this, or do we know why our school average is less than the state average?
Oh, well, what I would recommend you do, we could either answer it tonight, or you want to answer that tonight? All right.
Suzanne, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that's accurate. We had no averages that were lower than the state average as an aggregate that I remember. We just did this report.
Okay, I saw the report 3 or 4 times. I can send it to you. You can look
Could
at
you
that.
do that?
Sorry?
Would you mind sending
Yeah.
which one you're looking at?
Sure. 10th grade SLA, sorry, my daughter is now 10th, so
Yeah.
she's in 9th, right? So 9th grade, English, ELA report, we are like 9 points less than the state average.
Okay, if you don't mind, if you send me what you're looking at, because
It's the-
the data we have that we just did the presentation on, we didn't have that, so maybe it'll helpful to see what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
it's the report that came 10 days back, right? There was a mail from saying.
If you don't mind, if you can just copy and send it to me?
Sure.
And I'll give you a call back once we get it, okay?
Okay, but.
Thanks so much.
Sure, but as per you, we are not less than the state average in anything. That's why.
The presentation we just did, which included each grade level, there were certain subgroups that might be lower than the state average, but not, you're talking about the whole grade.
Whole high school,
Yeah.
she's in high school, whole high school
Right,
is less
by
than
grade,
the state.
so show me what you're talking about, and I'll be able to get back to you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your comment. Is there any other comments from the public? Yes. I don't know how you want to answer this. She's going to want to answer the name of the person that I was talking about. So, oh, no, that's okay. Yeah, that would be too long.
Lisa Garwood. Oh, it's loud tonight. Thank you, Scott, once again, for going over the budget details so eloquently. You make it very easy to understand all the painful stuff that we're going through. So this week, a nonpartisan third-party group hosted our Meet the Candidate night. Invitations were sent out to all candidates about 6 weeks in advance, and I think a choice of dates was also given. And yet, a bunch of our candidates chose not to attend. Quite a few have not had any discourse with our public whatsoever. Thank you to those who did prioritize going. And after a very informational evening, a new mysterious Meet the Candidate event is, I guess, being thrown together. No one knows who's organizing it. No one I know has even seen any announcements about how to watch it or even submit questions, and I do know that no public is allowed to be there while it's going on if they're not a candidate. This seems to be to me to be more disappointing behavior, and I hope that whomever is responsible for throwing it together is aware that without transparency, a word that seems to keep coming up, only here I'm seeing it, this bizarre event has no credibility. And in the theme of transparency, I'm asking the board to please verify who the president of the board is. And I'm asking because I saw a video yesterday from October 5th where an honor was given to Joyce Mehta as the South Brunswick Board of Education president. I was under the impression that Lisa Rogers was the president, so if you could please clarify, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you for your comment.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments.
I just like to, if you don't mind, I'd
Sure,
like to make a comment.
sure.
Lisa Rogers is the president. You're welcome.
No. Where'd she go? No, I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
Sometimes, much to my dismay.
I can verify
She is
that.
the president.
At least twice a day. All right. If there are no further comments of the public comments, we will close this portion. Did I hear something? Oh, we will close this portion of the public comments. If there's no further business to be discussed, please note that the next scheduled Board of Ed meeting is set for Thursday, October 26, 2023. May I have a motion and second to adjourn? Motion from Barry.
Julie Farrar for getting engaged.
Okay, all right. May I have a motion to adjourn? Ms. Hernandez, motion, second? Second? I need a second.
Second.
Ms. Karthik, all in favor? Hearing, the meeting is adjourned at 10:47 p.m. Oh, man, that